Hi guys. Tonight we step together into the frozen dusk, when the last streaks of daylight are already sinking behind ridges of stone, and your breath fogs with every exhale. You feel the air sharp and cold enough to sting your lungs, and the earth beneath your feet crunches like glass. The world outside is not gentle, it is winter at its harshest, when every creature struggles to survive the night. And yes, if you were dropped here without preparation, you probably wouldn't make it past sunrise. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And please, tell me in the comments where you are and what time of night it is right now. Now, dim the lights, and together we'll slip into the world of caves, where warmth, sleep, and survival blend in ways our ancestors depended on. You trudge forward, snow catching at your ankles, the horizon fading into slate-grey shadows. Somewhere far behind, the sun has given up its last warmth, leaving nothing but a pale afterglow. The bite of wind lashes against your cheeks, raw and unkind. Every part of you longs for shelter, and just ahead you see the dark mouth of a cave, nothing more than a hollow carved by time and weather. Yet to you it feels like hope itself. You know that step inside, and the rules of the world change. Here the air steadies, the storm muffles, and night promises rest rather than exposure. The first step across that threshold is startling. One moment your ears are ringing with gusts, the next, silence descends. You smell damp stone, tinged with minerals and a faint, earthy musk that seeps from the ground itself. The cold is still there, of course, but softened, gentler, as if stone holds the air close. In fact, geologists have noted that caves maintain steadier temperatures than the surface, often hovering near the mean annual temperature of the region. It means that even in the depths of glacial winters, the cave doesn't swing as wildly as the blizzards outside. That stable atmosphere would have been a lifesaver for early humans seeking not just shelter but true rest. Your eyes adjust slowly, finding shapes, uneven walls, stones jutting like ribs, and patches of darker shadow where recesses dive deeper. You feel the ground firm beneath your boots, smooth in places, littered with pebbles in others. Your fingertips brush the stone, it is cool, slightly slick, as though polished by countless hands long before yours. You can almost sense them, people crouched here, huddled with children, carrying meat from the hunt, stacking firewood. Imagine them stepping in with you, whispering in languages lost to time. Archaeologists often remark on how natural shelters like this became prime winter refuges. Evidence of soot layers high on cave ceilings shows that fires burned here season after season, and yet historians still argue whether groups stayed all winter long or used caves as temporary stopovers. Some point to heavy deposits of ash, bones, and tools that suggest long-term residence, while others believe groups moved regularly, never staying too long in one place for fear of exhausting local resources. You may picture them either way, a band of kin making this hollow their winter nest, or wanderers passing through, grateful just for a few nights of warmth. As you settle on a ledge inside, listening to the faint whistle of air at the entrance, you notice how sound changes here. Outside, the world roared with wind. Inside, even your breathing seems louder, reverberating against stone. The acoustics of caves fascinated early people too, though not always in ways we fully understand. Some researchers speculate that echoing chambers inspired ritual singing or drumbeats. But in your case, right now, it simply means you can hear your own heartbeat calming after the struggle through the snow. It's a steady thump that reassures you are safe, at least for tonight. Imagine now the faint orange flicker of firelight beginning at the center of the chamber. Sparks catch, then wood snaps, releasing smoke that curls upward. The warmth radiates unevenly, reaching your shins first, then slowly brushing your face. The smell of charred resin fills the air, sharp yet comforting. Fire means more than heat, it is the line between life and death, the reason you can stretch out, sigh, and drift towards sleep without fear of freezing. It is also, quite literally, a clock. Without modern timekeeping, the fire's glow marked the hours. Brighter flames meant evening chatter, dwindling embers meant sleep was near. But before you lie down, you think of what cushions the ground. Stone is unyielding, its chill creeping into bones. So, you spread furs, perhaps from reindeer or bear, layered with straw or dried moss. These crude mattresses were surprisingly effective. Experimental archaeologists today have even built replicas, finding that moss mixed with pine needles resists insects and smells pleasantly fresh. A quirky tidbit? Some evidence suggests Neanderthals used ashes sprinkled into bedding as natural pest control, a primitive but clever trick against lice and fleas. So, you shift your weight onto those makeshift layers, and already you feel the difference. The stone no longer gnaws at your spine, and instead, you sink into a nest softer than expected. As the fire crackles and smoke drifts, you notice the rhythm of others around you. Kinfolk draw close, voices hushed, hands busy with small chores. A child coughs, someone hums low. The group folds into itself, a circle of life against the void outside. Here in the flicker, with darkness pressing at the edges, the world feels small and contained. The outside blizzard cannot touch you. Wolves prowl but cannot enter, and so you breathe deeper, slower, ready to let the weight of the day slip away. The cave becomes a cocoon. Your eyelids droop. The warmth from the hearth combines with the insulating walls, cradling you like a second skin. The snowstorm still rages beyond, but for you, tonight, sleep will come easier than it ever could beneath open skies. The smell of damp stone lingers around you, soft yet insistent, clinging to your nostrils like a memory you cannot quite place. It is neither pleasant nor foul, something in between, something deeply ancient. You breathe it in, and it reminds you of earth after rain, of basements left untouched, of minerals slowly weeping down the walls. It feels heavy, grounding, almost like the cave itself is drawing you closer into its chest. You lie still for a moment, realizing that this is the smell your ancestors would have known intimately, the smell of safety when winter clawed at the world outside. Close your eyes, and you can sense how the cave transforms once you commit to staying inside. Outside, the wind shrieks, slicing like invisible knives, yet in here the air stills. There is cold, of course, but it is stable, less biting, more a cool embrace that does not change hour by hour. Modern scientists explain this phenomenon with simple physics. Stone absorbs and releases heat slowly, so it regulates extremes. For prehistoric families, that meant fewer shocks to the system, fewer icy blasts at night. A small detail, but one that could decide who thrived and who perished. You shift slightly, pressing your hand against the rock floor. It is damp. Moisture seeps here, condensing as tiny droplets that glisten like pearls along the rough surface. In the dim firelight, they sparkle faintly, winking back at you. That dampness is not just decoration. It meant water nearby, dripping from stalactites or collecting in shallow basins. Imagine the convenience, never straying far for a sip, never wandering into the dark forest in search of a stream while predators lurked. Still, historians debate whether such moisture made caves more of a burden. Some argue that damp stone chilled the body too much, worsening ailments like arthritis or coughs. Others counter that clever bedding layers of hides, branches, and ash offset the cold. You may find yourself siding with the latter, because as you lie here with furs beneath you, the damp doesn't feel like a threat. It feels like background music. There's a quirky observation from archaeologists. When they recreate ancient living spaces inside caves, they often remark on the cave smell, sticking to their clothes for days. It's a potent combination of minerals, ash, and dampness. That smell would have been part of every waking and sleeping moment for early humans. Children would have grown up with it embedded in memory, like how modern people recall the scent of home cooking or a familiar blanket. For you, Lying here in the dark, it becomes strangely comforting, even hypnotic, drawing you deeper into drowsiness. Your ears catch the faint sound of dripping water somewhere further inside, a steady plink, plink, plink. Each drop echoes, stretching into the silence as though the cave itself is speaking. Some anthropologists believe these natural sounds influence the rhythms of prehistoric sleep. Without clocks or electricity, the body listened to cues like this: drip patterns, crackling fire, howling wind outside. They formed an organic lullaby. And though historians still argue whether people of that era experienced segmented sleep, waking in the middle of the night for a first and second slumber, the evidence suggests that these natural cues shaped when and how deep they drifted off. You inhale again, and this time the smell shifts. Smoke has mixed with dampness, forming a perfume of char and stone. It scratches your throat slightly, but your body adjusts. There is a peculiar trick the cave plays on smoke. Instead of dissipating quickly like outdoors, it lingers, curling and thickening, staining ceilings black. Archaeologists often point to those soot marks as fingerprints of long occupation. They are history written in ash. The downside? Smoke-irritated eyes, lungs, and sleep. Yet somehow, bodies adapted. You may feel the sting, but you also recognize that for early humans, smoky air signaled warmth and community. It was worth the price of a tickle in the throat. The air is not stagnant, though. Even as smoke drifts upward, faint currents circulate. At the cave entrance, icy wind still pushes in, colliding with warmer air from the fire. This mingling creates a strange draft. You feel it sweep across your skin, cool but refreshing. You tug a hide closer to your shoulders, shivering lightly, yet it feels good to notice the contrast. Sleep, after all, often comes easiest when the air is cooler, when blankets trap heat against the body. Modern sleep science echoes this. Humans rest best in slightly cool conditions, not stifling ones. Perhaps our ancestors already knew this by instinct, arranging fires so they did not overheat the chamber, but kept it just cool enough for rest. You roll onto your side, eyes half closed, and notice how shadows dance across the wall. The uneven stone makes shapes, one moment a bison's head, another moment the curve of a human face. Those shapes would not go unnoticed by early humans either. They might have whispered stories, connecting shadow forms to myths. Imagine a child pointing to the wall, saying they see a bear, and the group weaving a tale that drifts into the night. The cave becomes more than shelter, it becomes theatre. Your dreams, when they arrive, will carry pieces of those shifting silhouettes. But for now, it is still the smell of damp stone that holds your attention. It wraps around your senses like a blanket, heavy but reassuring. Think of how different this is from sleeping in open air. Out there, every gust brings new scents: pine, wet fir, decay of leaves. In here, the smell is consistent, unchanging. Consistency is comfort. It tells your brain, you are in the same place, the same refuge, nothing has altered. That familiarity lulls you into a deeper trust, the foundation of rest. Mainstream accounts remind us that caves were not universally chosen. Many groups built huts or shelters even in winter. Yet caves offered this unique stability of air and smell. That lingering mineral scent signaled continuity across nights, perhaps even across generations. Historians wonder whether returning to the same cave season after season gave families a sense of identity, like a recurring winter home. Some researchers even suggest the caves became ancestral sites, places tied to memory and ritual. You can feel that possibility here when the scent fills your lungs. It feels almost sacred, as though others before you also breathed it in, also sighed with relief. Your body responds slowly to these cues. Muscles unclench, breathing evens out. The stone smell may not be sweet, but it signals safety. You let your head rest against a folded fur, cheek pressed into its rough softness. Around you, the others settle too, their movements small and deliberate. A cough here, a shuffle there, but gradually all fades. The cave fills with steady rhythms of breathing. It is like a chorus of rest, each person contributing a note to the lullaby. You drift within it, carried by the mixture of stone, smoke, and warmth. A final curious thought comes to you before sleep pulls harder. Some modern spelunkers claim they dream more vividly after long hours in caves, attributing it to air composition, darkness, or acoustics. Could it be that your ancestors also dreamed more vividly here, their stories more colorful because the environment itself encouraged it? Historians have no clear answer. They still debate whether cave life sharpened imagination or dulled it. But as your eyelids droop, you suspect the former. Because the cave is not empty, it hums with water drops, whispers with draughts, and perfumes the air with damp stone. It feels alive, and in its presence, your mind is already half in the realm of dreams. You pull the fur higher, nestle deeper into the bedding, and let the stone's smell seep into every sense. Safe, grounded, and suspended in this cavern womb, you yield to the night. You crouch closer to the center of the chamber, watching as sparks jump from flint to tinder, and fire begins its slow transformation from fragile ember to roaring life. Your hands ache from the cold, knuckles stiff, but you strike again and again, determined to coax warmth out of stone. At last, the tinder smoulders. A thin thread of smoke rises, and then, like magic, the first flame appears. It dances with nervous energy, eager and unstable, until you feed it twigs and resin. Soon, a steady blaze licks the darkness away. Most archaeological evidence suggests that the mastery of fire was humanity's great turning point. For survival in freezing winters, nothing rivaled the hearth. It provided heat for the body, protection from predators, and even a psychological calmness that soothed restless nights. Without it, no amount of furs or caves could keep you alive through bitter months. Fire was more than survival, it was transformation. It reshaped sleep, allowing people to drift off without constant shivers or dread of frostbite. Your senses flood with the smell of burning wood, sharp, sweet, and smoky all at once. It fills the cave with both comfort and hazard. The ceiling begins to darken, faint streaks of soot collecting like shadows that will last for centuries. Archaeologists who excavate caves today still trace these black stains, recognizing them as signatures of long nights exactly like the one you are imagining now. They speak of continuity, countless generations huddled around similar fires, listening to the same crackle, staring at the same shifting glow. A curious little finding is that ancient hearths often contain not only wood ash but crushed bones. Some scientists believe bone was used as supplementary fuel when wood was scarce, producing a hotter and longer-lasting flame. Imagine the sharp smell of burning marrow filling the chamber acrid. Yes, but essential when survival outweighed delicacy. It's an odd thought, isn't it? A fire built partly on the remains of yesterday's feast, keeping you alive as you drift into sleep. As you extend your hands toward the blaze, heat seeps slowly into your fingers, thawing the ache. The warmth spreads across your chest, and you feel your breathing deepen, slower and steadier. It is remarkable how much the human body responds to firelight. Even today, researchers note that staring at flames lowers heart rate, easing anxiety. You sense that same ancient relaxation creeping in, the way your ancestors must have leaned back, eyes half closed, lulled by the gentle rhythm of flickering light. Of course, fire is not without risk. The cave mouth draws in wind, which occasionally sends sparks flying dangerously close to hides and hair. Children are hushed, reminded not to play too near. Adults keep a cautious eye on the embers, knowing a stray flame could undo all safety. Specialists remain split on how early humans managed these hazards. Some propose that careful hearth designs, stone circles, hollowed pits kept flames under control. Others think fire was more chaotic, requiring constant vigilance. You might lean toward the second, since you can feel the tension even as you relax, one ear always tuned for the crackle that signals trouble. But the benefits far outweighed the dangers. The fire doesn't just warm your body, it extends your day. Without it, Darkness would swallow everything the moment the sun set. With it, hours stretch longer. You can sit, talk, mend tools, tell stories, and yes, prepare for deeper sleep. Fire restructured time itself. It gave you twilight, a liminal space between day and night where the mind could wind down gradually. This transition mattered for rest, just as our modern bedtime routines matter now. The cave becomes a world of color thanks to the flames. Shadows leap and sway, painting animals across the stone walls. At one moment you see a horse galloping, at another a bear crouching. These shapes merge with memory and imagination, blending into dreams even before you close your eyes. Some anthropologists suggest that flickering firelight might have encouraged early art sparks of inspiration, quite literally carved from the dance of shadows. Whether that is true or not, you sense how the flames guide your thoughts into softer, stranger pathways, exactly the roads that lead towards sleep. The crackle of resin pops, startling but rhythmic. Occasionally, smoke curls low, making eyes water. You wipe at your lashes, and the sting reminds you how fragile comfort is. Yet even this discomfort carries reassurance. Smoke drives insects away. Ash, sprinkled over bedding, deters pests. Fire guards in more ways than one. A modern quirk of anthropology notes that sleeping near smoke also reduced parasite loads, keeping families healthier in the long run. So even as you cough softly into your sleeve, you realize the irritation comes with hidden benefits. Meanwhile, outside, the blizzard rages unseen. Wolves prowl, noses catching scents of roasting meat scraps tossed into the flames. But none dare enter. The line of firelight is like an invisible barrier. You feel secure, even smug, knowing that predators who could tear you apart hesitate at the very edge of this circle. Imagine how differently sleep would feel without that barrier, fitful, anxious, constantly interrupted. Instead, you allow yourself to lie back, sigh, and let fire carry you into rest. The debate continues among researchers about whether firelight truly altered circadian rhythms. Did people sleep in longer, uninterrupted blocks? Or did they still wake in the night as many pre-industrial societies did? The evidence is unclear. Some experiments with modern volunteers in firelit settings suggest that people relax into segmented sleep, waking for an hour in the middle of the night before returning to slumber. Others insist fire allowed deeper, continuous rest. You may not know the answer, but lying here now, you can feel how the flame reshapes your sense of time. It bends night into something gentler, less absolute. Your companions settle in around the hearth. Some curl up close, furs wrapped tight, while others take positions against the wall. You notice how everyone faces inward, toward the blaze, as though fire itself is a companion. This instinct survives even today. How often do we arrange ourselves around campfires, televisions, or glowing screens? The circle is the same, the pull of light unchanging. Fire has always been the axis of our rest. Your eyes half close as you follow the fire's rhythm. It flares, it calms, it sighs. You match your breathing to its rise and fall, a subconscious synchronization. The cave fills with a golden pulse, a heartbeat of warmth. It is both fragile and eternal, small enough to vanish with a gust, yet old enough to have carried your kind across millennia. In this moment, as flames paint your skin and smoke perfumes your hair, you understand why early people might have considered fire a spirit, alive and watching. To them it wasn't just heat, it was company, guardian, teacher. Perhaps they whispered thanks before drifting to sleep, offering scraps of food into the blaze as though feeding a guest. Imagine those murmured rituals blending with crackling wood, fading into silence as eyelids drooped. You lie down now, the warmth lingering even as you turn away. Fire continues behind you, steady and loyal. Its glow softens the cave's dampness. Its scent mingles with mineral air. Its presence assures you that night is safe enough for dreams. Without it, the cave would be unbearable. With it, you are lulled into calm. The flames hiss softly as resin bubbles, a final lullaby. Your eyes close fully, and your last thought before surrendering to rest is simple gratitude for fire, for stone, for the chance to sleep through one more winter night. You ease your body down upon the ground, still warm from the fire's glow, and take note of what cushions you. The cave floor is mercilessly hard, uneven in some places, slick in others, but clever hands have softened it with layers of bedding. Hides, straw, dried moss, and branches form a makeshift mattress. You sink into it with relief, realizing that someone thought ahead, gathering what little comfort nature allowed. Without such layers, sleep would be broken by aching bones and constant shivers. It is widely accepted among researchers that bedding materials were a crucial innovation for early humans. Archaeological digs in places like South Africa and France have revealed compacted layers of plant matter, ashes, and animal hides, clear evidence of deliberate construction of sleeping surfaces. These were not random piles, they were carefully arranged to provide insulation, repel insects, and protect from damp stone. In essence, your ancestors created the world's first beds, and they did so with surprising ingenuity. Your fingertips trail across the fur beneath you. It is coarse, thick, still carrying the faint musk of the animal it once belonged to. Perhaps it came from a reindeer, its hide valued for warmth. Or maybe from a cave bear, hunted with danger and triumph. The scent is wild, earthy, but also reassuring. Wrapped in these hides, you feel closer to the life you depend on, even as you rest. They remind you that sleep and survival are stitched together by the same thread, the creatures outside who sustain your family. Among the stranger traces discovered in caves are remains of bedding sprinkled with ash. Ash, it seems, was not just waste. It served as a natural repellent against lice, fleas, and other pests that could make nights unbearable. Imagine sprinkling fine grey powder over your mattress, not to make it prettier, but to keep small biting intruders at bay. It is such an unexpected yet practical detail, a reminder that comfort often grew out of necessity. Tonight, as you settle deeper into your bedding, you can almost feel that thin layer of ash beneath, a quiet protector against unseen nuisances. The fire casts its glow across the bedding, highlighting the soft pile of furs and the glint of straw. You notice how the materials form layers, one upon another, a primitive kind of architecture. Some archaeologists maintain that these layered constructions reveal a surprising level of planning. They suggest that families returned to the same sleeping spots night after night, rebuilding their nests, maintaining them, even improving them over time. Others argue these beds were temporary, built only for a few nights before moving on. Interpretations differ when it comes to how permanent these arrangements were, but one thing is clear: comfort mattered. Even in the harshest winters, people wanted more than survival, they wanted rest that restored them. You imagine yourself lying on bare stone for comparison. The thought alone makes your back ache. Stone would leach heat mercilessly, chilling muscles, numbing joints. But with furs beneath you, that cold is blocked. Instead, you feel warmth radiating up from your own body, trapped and reflected back by the hides. The straw adds resilience, springing lightly beneath your weight, keeping your body elevated just enough from the damp. Moss adds softness, its faint pine-like fragrance mingling with the smoky air. Together, these layers form a cradle, a cocoon against winter's cruelty. Close your eyes, and you hear the subtle creak of straw shifting as someone beside you moves. It is a gentle sound, oddly soothing, like the rustle of dry grass in summer. The bedding is alive with texture and sound, part of the cave's lullaby. Even as children squirm and adults stretch weary limbs, the nest holds everyone, absorbing movements into its embrace. The bedding is communal, not individual. You do not claim a personal mattress, you share in one great nest, bound together by closeness. An unusual observation from modern experiments is that such bedding materials also affected air quality. When straw and herbs burned or decayed slightly, they released compounds that could cleanse bacteria from the air. In a confined cave, this might have reduced illness. Think of it, Not only did moss soften your bed, it may have purified the space where you slept. Tonight, with your cheek pressed against fur, you can almost convince yourself the faint, sharp tang in the air is medicine itself. You roll slightly to your side, pressing your body against the warmth of another. Sleeping in groups was not optional. It was survival. Shared bedding meant shared heat, each body contributing to a pool of warmth that made the difference between life and death. The hides draped across multiple figures, cocooning them all, turning a handful of humans into one large breathing organism. Each exhale softened the air. Each heartbeat contributed to a rhythm. You feel it now, your body no longer isolated, but part of a greater whole. Debates persist among experts about whether such close sleeping fostered deeper intimacy or constant tension. Some argue it encouraged bonds, trust, and even synchronized sleep patterns. Others suggest quarrels, discomfort, and lack of privacy plagued nightly rest. As you listen to the faint sighs and snores around you, you can imagine both sides being true. Perhaps there were nights when warmth outweighed irritation, and nights when elbows dug into ribs and tempers frayed. But in this moment, with cold pressing outside and fire glowing within, you sense closeness as comfort. Your hand brushes against straw again, and you realize how little separated you from the earth. Just a thin layer of plant matter, some hides, and then rock. And yet, that little bit of innovation was monumental. It is easy now to overlook such simple inventions, but bedding was as revolutionary as fire in shaping human rest. It allowed the body to heal better, to fight illness, to rise stronger for the next hunt. This is no luxury, it is survival disguised as comfort. Imagine children curled against their parents, furs pulled over small heads. Their breaths puff in rhythm, soft and even. Mothers hum low, not quite lullabies, but murmurs of reassurance. The bedding absorbs it all, a stage for human tenderness as well as necessity. You realize that sleep here is not only about keeping the body alive, it is about nurturing the spirit, ensuring that even in the depths of ice, moments of peace endure. Some researchers note that this closeness to hides and moss also meant closeness to scents. Every night, the smells of animal, plant, and smoke pressed into skin and hair. It may sound unpleasant, but perhaps it became part of identity, the scent of family, of tribe. To those children, the odor of fur was not strange, it was home. Tonight, as you breathe in that musk, you feel strangely comforted too, as though your senses recognize something ancient, older than memory itself. The cave around you sighs. Drips fall in the distance, fire pops, straw rustles. These are the lullabies of your ancestors, woven into the bedding beneath you. You shift, sigh, and let the hides envelop you further. Outside, the blizzard sharpens its teeth, but inside you rest. The bedding does its work silently, insulating you from cold, pests, and pain. It is humble, yet it holds the weight of innovation. As your eyelids grow heavy, you realize you are not just lying on animal skins and dried plants. You are lying on the first true beds of humanity, the foundation of all comfort that would follow. From these crude nests sprung mattresses, quilts, and pillows centuries later, but none of those modern luxuries matter right now. What matters is the warmth seeping into your bones, the softness beneath your cheek, and the gentle knowledge that you will make it through the night. The fire has settled into a steady glow now, not roaring, not threatening to vanish, but humming along as if it, too, has found a rhythm for sleep. You lie back, half-lidded eyes gazing upward, and there it is, the gentle hush of water dripping from some unseen stalactite in the depths of the cave. Plink, plink. The sound stretches across the chamber, echoing in ways that transform the smallest droplet into something grand. It feels like a metronome keeping time in the darkness, a patient and eternal lullaby whispered by stone itself. Excavations consistently reveal that prehistoric caves bore signs of water erosion and dripstone formations. Many shelters chosen for winter survival were not just empty cavities but living spaces shaped by centuries of dripping, flowing water. To the modern ear, That sound is white noise, soothing, steady, a signal to the brain that it is safe to rest. Imagine how profound it must have been for your ancestors. No electricity, no hum of machines, no street lamps outside the window, only the faint rhythm of water falling into pools. A soundscape carved by nature and carried straight into their dreams. You turn your head slightly, listening harder. The sound is not uniform. Some droplets are quick, striking with a sharper tone. Others slower, rounder, a deeper splash. Each variation becomes a note in the cave's hidden music. Children curled under furs may have fallen asleep faster because of it. Mothers nursing infants may have timed their breathing to those drops. And elders, eyes half shut, might have woven myths about spirits whispering in each plink. An unusual observation from speleologists, the scientists who study caves, is that dripping water can alter its pitch depending on the size of the cavity it falls into. Small puddles produce high, tinkling notes, while deeper pools echo lower, resonant tones. In a sense, the cave played its own organ each night, an instrument that required no hands, only time and gravity. You can almost hear it now, shifting from treble to bass, weaving a natural lullaby across the chamber. The scholarly community is divided over how early humans perceived these sounds. Some anthropologists suggest the echoes were unsettling, even frightening, making caves seem haunted. Others argue that people embraced the noise, interpreting it as protective spirits or ancestral voices keeping watch. You, lying here with your cheek against fur and eyes half closed, feel it as comfort. Each drip marks the passage of time, not threatening but reassuring. It says, "The cave is alive, but it means you no harm." Your nose catches another layer of scent, now damp air stirred by droplets striking stone. It carries the faintest mineral tang, sharp like iron, yet refreshing. The smell mixes with smoke, hides, and moss to create a cocktail of earthbound aromas. Oddly enough, it is not suffocating. Instead, it is grounding, tethering you to the present moment. You think of modern sound machines that mimic rain or waterfalls, sold to help restless people sleep. Your ancestors had the original version, right here, free and endless. Some researchers believe this acoustic environment contributed to deeper sleep cycles. The steady rhythm may have lulled bodies into slower heart rates and longer breaths, much like a lullaby does for infants. The theory has its detractors. Of course, others claim the irregularity of drips could just as easily wake people. Still, when you let yourself imagine lying here night after night, the pattern becomes hypnotic. Your mind begins to sync with it, your thoughts spacing out like the drops themselves. There is a quirky little detail uncovered at certain sites. Dripstone formations near bedding areas often bore small indentations where people may have collected water in skins or gourds. It seems that not only did they listen to the water, they lived by it. A drip might lull you to sleep while also filling tomorrow's supply of drinking water, dual purpose, practical and poetic. Tonight, as you listen, you imagine a gourd catching those plinks, a steady resource gifted by the cave's own heartbeat. The drip echoes further into the chamber, mixing with the crackle of embers. Together they create layers of sound fire's warmth in one ear, water's patience in the other. You realize how balanced it feels. Flame and drip, heat and cool, light and dark. Each sense is attended to, each need mirrored. The cave provides not just walls but a symphony. Sleep doesn't creep in through silence, it flows in through harmony. You shift on your bedding, noticing how every movement carries into the quiet. A rustle of straw, a sigh from someone nearby, all swallowed into the greater resonance. The dripping water becomes a backdrop, masking small disturbances, smoothing rough edges. It is like the hum of traffic lulling modern sleepers, only purer, untouched by human machines. Perhaps this was one of nature's gifts, sound designed not to distract but to cradle. Some elders, you imagine, might have told children that the droplets were messages from the spirit world, each plink a word, each echo a reminder that ancestors lingered. In fact, some scholars argue that caves themselves were viewed as liminal spaces, the thresholds between the living world and the underworld. If so, then these water sounds would have deepened that mystique. Yet even if interpreted as otherworldly, they weren't always feared. Instead, they could be reminders of protection, of unseen presences keeping watch while the family slept. Your eyes droop as you follow the rhythm. You don't count the drops, they count you, marking your slow surrender into rest. Every plink is a nudge downward, every echo a hand guiding you deeper. You let it happen. No resistance, just trust. Before you drift fully, you remember a modern experiment where volunteers slept inside caves for weeks without clocks or sunlight. Many of them reported unusual dreams, vivid and immersive, often tied to the sound of dripping water. One volunteer even claimed they felt the cave was breathing with them. Whether that was real or imagined, you can sympathize. Right now, the cave feels alive. Its drips a pulse in your ears, synchronizing with your chest. Outside, the storm howls, but you barely notice. Wolves, snow, cold, they are muffled into nothingness. Inside, only fire and water remain, ancient opposites blending into one gentle song. You curl closer into your bedding, body loose, mind softened, and accept the lullaby. You may not know if this is superstition or science, comfort or coincidence, but tonight, the dripping water belongs to you. It will carry you into dreams as faithfully as it has carried countless generations before. Smoke curls upward in lazy spirals, finding its way to the roof of the cave, where soot marks spread like dark wings. You watch the fire's breath stretch higher, thinning as it climbs, and then pooling in a heavy haze near the ceiling. It clings there, stubborn, only escaping through cracks and fissures invisible in the shadows. Your lungs catch slightly with each inhale, but you've already learned to live with it. This is the price of warmth and safety, air that scratches at the throat, eyes that water, yet bodies that survive. Most archaeologists agree that soot deposits are among the clearest signs of long-term cave habitation. When excavators tilt their lights toward ceilings, the blackened crust tells its own story. Years upon years of hearths burning in the same spots. Families, seasons, generations, layer after layer of smoke, sealed into stone like an archive. To the untrained eye, it looks like nothing more than dirt. But to experts, it's a diary written in charcoal, proof that people found this air breathable enough to endure, even when it wasn't exactly pleasant. You cough lightly, but then chuckle at the thought. Even discomforts can feel comforting when they are familiar. The sting of smoke in your eyes is shared by everyone around you, grandparents, children, hunters returned from the chase. It is communal irritation, softened by laughter and habit. A modern oddity. Researchers who replicated cave living in controlled settings reported that some volunteers claimed to miss the smoke after leaving. They described it as part of the cave's personality, a smell that became inseparable from memory. Tonight, you can understand that strange affection. Archaeologists continue to debate how ancient people managed ventilation. Some propose they built small fires near cave mouths, letting drafts carry smoke outward. Others insist larger hearths were placed deeper inside, smoke pooling, until winds eventually dragged it out. Neither explanation fully satisfies. You sit in the haze and realize both might be true solutions, shifting with cave design, weather, or simple necessity. What matters isn't perfection but survival. Breathing a little smoke was better than freezing to death outside. Still, the body adapted in clever ways. You notice how those around you stay low, close to the floor where air is clearer. Infants rest in hollows lined with hides, where smoke has thinned. Adults crouch, never standing fully upright unless necessary. It becomes instinct, a posture born of survival. You too are just lying lower, drawing each breath carefully, savoring the difference between fresh air near the ground and the heavier layer above. One odd but delightful detail unearthed in some caves: stalactites coated with soot, darkened permanently by smoke that brushed them nightly. Imagine the cave itself slowly transformed by each exhale of fire. What once was pale limestone became painted black, a collaboration between humans and stone. Even thousands of years later, those formations still carry the memory of smoke. You gaze upward and picture that transformation happening here, even as you lie beneath it. Your skin prickles with the warmth fire provides, yet smoke tempers it, reminding you not to grow complacent. You think about balance, too much fire and the cave suffocates, too little and the cold steals your rest. The line between comfort and danger is razor thin. Families must have learned through trial and error, adjusting, experimenting, teaching each generation how to tend flames just enough. Specialists remain split on whether fire tenders were chosen by role. Perhaps certain adults always kept watch or if everyone took turns. Either way, the presence of smoke was constant, woven into every night of winter. You rub your eyes, watering from the haze, and feel oddly drowsy. Some scientists suggest that carbon particles or lower oxygen might have influenced sleep, pushing people into deeper states more quickly. The idea isn't proven, but as you blink heavily, it feels plausible. Smoke, for all its irritation, may have been a strange ally of slumber. Your ancestors, dozing with watery eyes, might have slid into dreams faster than they ever would have under clear skies. The sound of crackling wood continues, each pop a reminder that smoke is always moving. It snakes upward, reshaping shadows, curling into invisible paths. You imagine the cave roof mottled with scars of flame, layers of soot mingled with dripping minerals. Over centuries, smoke became part of the geology, fossilized evidence of nights like this. Without words or symbols, people inscribed their presence into stone simply by surviving. An unusual observation by modern cave explorers is how the smell of old soot lingers even in caves abandoned for millennia. Step into one, and you may still detect faint char, a whisper of fires long gone. It is a sensory time machine, pulling you back across eras. Tonight, as smoke weaves through your hair, you know that someone, thousands of winters ago, lay in this same haze, eyes watering, lungs adjusting, yet heart slowing into rest. The children stir, some coughing softly, but no panic follows. Parents soothe with gentle pats, murmurs blending into the crackle. The group has accepted smoke as part of life, not an intruder. You realize this acceptance is a kind of wisdom resisting what cannot be changed, only wastes energy. Instead, they folded discomfort into routine, even into comfort. Smoke meant warmth. Smoke meant company. Smoke meant you could close your eyes and expect to wake again. Your vision blurs slightly as tears sting, but the firelight beyond those tears glows softer, hazier, like a lantern seen through fog. It is beautiful. In a way, flame and smoke collaborating to paint dreamscapes on the cave walls. Bison and horses flicker, shadows elongated by the shifting haze. This theatre of smoke and light must have entranced children, their first stories written in vapor. Maybe that's how myths of spirits in the flames began, or how elders explained the blurred visions of half-sleep. You let your breath fall into rhythm with the fire's sigh. Inhale, cough lightly. Exhale, relax. Your body knows what to do, even as lungs negotiate with haze. A warmth spreads through your limbs, making the sting in your eyes feel minor, manageable. Comfort, here, is not the absence of hardship. It is the art of resting despite it. As you nestle deeper into your bedding, the smoke above thickens, but you pay it little mind. You know it will find its way out eventually, slipping through cracks and mingling with storm winds. For now, you remain inside its embrace. Your eyes close, and you imagine that blackened ceiling stretching across centuries, carrying memories of every flame, every family, every night where survival and sleep intertwined. And with that thought, you let the smoke cradle you into dreams. The fire breathes steadily, its glow softening the rough walls, and the bedding cradles your weight. Yet warmth does not come from flames alone. You notice the closeness of bodies around you, kin pressed side by side, shoulders brushing, breaths mingling in faint white clouds. The hides stretch across not one figure, but many, wrapping everyone together. It is a blanket of fur and flesh alike, a shared cocoon spun out of necessity. Archaeological evidence strongly suggests that communal sleeping was the norm in prehistoric caves. Bones, hearths, and bedding layers are often found grouped tightly, as if entire families slept in circles. This pattern implies more than convenience. It reflects survival strategy. When bodies share heat, energy loss slows. Each person becomes a furnace for the next. In frigid winters, this was no small advantage. It meant the difference between waking to hunt again or never waking at all. You feel the warmth immediately, not just as temperature, but as comfort. A hand brushes against yours, not intentional, just gravity pulling limbs together. You don't flinch. Instead, you let the contact remind you that you are not alone. The cold outside can bite all it wants inside. You are part of a greater warmth, a human hearth. Among the more curious discoveries in anthropology is the suggestion that synchronized sleep rhythms may have emerged from such arrangements. When one person stirred, others adjusted, settling again into collective stillness. Modern studies of people who camp without artificial light show that their sleep cycles often align naturally. Imagine that here, a dozen individuals drifting into slumber at nearly the same moment, their breathing gradually sinking, the entire group moving as if one organism. The cave itself must have hummed with that rhythm, like a great sleeping animal. Researchers remain divided on whether communal sleeping fostered stronger social bonds or bred constant friction. One side argues that nightly closeness built trust and empathy, the foundation of cooperative hunting and shared survival. The other suggests it caused tension, snoring, coughing, fidgeting, and the loss of private space. As you shift slightly against your neighbor's shoulder, you can believe both. Perhaps there were nights of annoyance, but in the face of blizzards and predators, the need for unity outweighed any irritation. Your senses expand in this nest of warmth. You hear the layered breaths around you, some slow and heavy, others quick and shallow. Each voice adds texture to the soundscape. A child sighs in sleep, the exhale thin and high. An elder's chest rumbles with a deeper rhythm, all blend together into an accidental symphony. You match your breathing to it without realizing, falling into step with the group's collective pulse. One unusual observation from modern recreations: people sleeping in close quarters often experience lower stress hormones compared to those isolated. There is a calming effect in hearing others nearby, in feeling subtle touches of warmth. Loneliness evaporates. Even today, some cultures keep the tradition of group sleeping, not only for warmth, but for emotional comfort. You sense that comfort acutely, an invisible safety net woven out of proximity. The hides smell faintly of musk and smoke, but also of kin. Your nose catches the unique human scent, salty, earthy, familiar. It is not perfume, but it is identity. To children, the smell of family meant security. To you, pressed into this communal cocoon, it signals that you belong. The cave may be stone and cold, but the people make it a home. Of course, not all nights were tranquil. Imagine arguments carried into the bedding, siblings squabbling, couples bickering, someone claiming more space than their share. Perhaps laughter followed, or perhaps sulking silence. Academic circles have long discussed whether this closeness amplified conflict or created resilience. Maybe both. You can almost hear echoes of a grumble or a chuckle, fading into eventual snores. Even discord becomes small when exhaustion settles in. You shift again, feeling how hides stretch taut across multiple bodies. It is not like your modern blanket, tailored to one sleeper. Here, coverings belong to everyone. If one tugs, the others adjust. The fabric of rest is literally shared. This requires cooperation even in unconsciousness. That lesson, subtle yet profound, shaped human culture. To rest well, you had to yield a little comfort for the group. Tonight, you give up a corner of hide, and in return, someone else's warmth shields your spine. The fire pops, sending sparks briefly skyward, and heads stir reflexively. No one rises. The danger is minimal, and trust carries the group. You think about how these reflexive checks, glances, murmurs reinforce safety. Someone is always close enough to wake if needed. You are never unguarded, not in such intimacy. Predators may roam outside, but inside, human warmth is both armor and reassurance. You close your eyes, letting yourself melt deeper into this pile of humanity. Each movement is absorbed by the whole, your weight carried by more than just bedding. It is carried by trust. The warmth that seeps into your bones is not just physical, it is social, emotional, ancestral. You realize why stories of kinship survive across millennia. In the harshest winters, family was not just important, it was the only true shield against death. One odd but telling detail emerges in modern anthropological surveys. People who share sleep environments often recall more dreams than those who sleep alone. Some suggest it's because small disturbances wake them during lighter stages of sleep. If that were true for your ancestors, then communal living didn't just protect them physically, it enriched their dream lives. Perhaps dreams became shared stories, retold by firelight the next day, weaving collective mythologies. You smile faintly, realizing even dreams were communal property here. The storm outside rages on, unseen, unheard. Its power has no sway over you tonight. Instead, you are wrapped in warmth, carried by breaths, lulled by presence. You let the sensation wash through you, the brush of another's elbow, the rhythm of synchronized lungs, the muffled cough in the distance. These are not annoyances, they are proof that you are not alone, that you belong to a circle of life enduring the ice. Your body loosens, muscles unclenching, heart slowing. You surrender not just to sleep, but to the group's collective slumber. Your eyelids droop, heavy, as warmth and sound blur into one steady current. Outside, wolves pace. Inside, you dream. The warmth of bodies fades into the hush of awareness. Your eyes, half closed, drift toward the entrance of the cave. Beyond the glow of firelight lies only blackness, pierced occasionally by the silver shimmer of snow swirling under the moon. The world outside is alive with movement, though you cannot see it clearly. You sense it, the shifting of paws across ice, the low snarl of hunger carried on the wind. Wolves, maybe a lynx, perhaps even a great bear, restless in winter's depth. It is widely accepted among archaeologists that caves were chosen as shelters not only for their insulation but also for their defensive position. A narrow mouth of stone could act like a fortress, with just one point of entry to guard. When predators prowled in the dark, the cave became a shield. Yet this sense of safety was always tinged with caution. A family might huddle in warmth, but ears remained tuned to the outside world. Each howl in the distance was both a warning and a reassurance. Wolves are near, yes, but they are not inside. You lie still, listening. The wind carries sounds unevenly, bending them until they seem closer or farther than they truly are. A howl arcs across the night, beginning low, then rising to a high, lonely pitch. A shiver runs through your spine, even though the wolves cannot reach you. Somewhere, a child stirs at the sound, pulling tighter beneath a hide. The cave walls amplify the outside noises, as though reminding you, danger lingers just beyond your walls. Among the more curious notes from ethnographers is that many hunter-gatherer groups into modern times created bedtime stories about predators. These tales were both warnings and comforts, designed to teach children caution but also to soothe them. You imagine an elder whispering now, "Stay close, the wolf will not cross the fire." It is a ritualized lullaby, fear softened into safety by story. Interpretations differ when it comes to whether early humans ever shared their caves with dangerous animals. Some evidence suggests bears may have denned in certain shelters before or after people, leading to potential clashes. Other scholars argue that humans carefully avoided caves with such signs. Still, bear skulls found deliberately arranged in niches hint at a relationship more complex than avoidance, perhaps reverence, perhaps fear, perhaps both. As you stare at the cave mouth, you cannot decide whether you'd welcome or dread those glowing amber eyes appearing there. A sudden gust pushes snow deeper into the opening, scattering flakes that glisten against firelight. The cold shock tightens your muscles, but no beast follows. You breathe easier, though the awareness of what lurks beyond remains. You imagine wolves circling, their paws pressing the snow flat, their noses twitching for scents of meat or smoke. They wait, patient, clever, hoping for weakness. But the barrier of stone and flame stands strong. One unusual observation from zoologists is that wolves often avoided firelight even when desperate. Their caution, inherited through generations, made them hesitate at the glowing boundary. For your ancestors, this meant a powerful advantage. Fire didn't just warm, it drew a line predators rarely dared cross. Tonight, as flames flicker near the entrance, you see how their glow becomes an invisible wall, an unspoken command. Stay away. Still, the night stretches long. You wonder what it must have felt like to sleep lightly, ears always tuned for change. Even with warmth and kin, vigilance never fully lifted. Perhaps that is why people took turns tending the hearth, because the true fear wasn't freezing, it was waking to a shadow stepping inside. Specialists remain split on whether night watches were formalized roles or simply instinctive insomnia among some members of the group. You can almost picture one person now, eyes half open, watching the cave mouth while others drift deeper into dreams. The fire cracks, briefly flaring bright, and the shadows it casts seem to leap like intruders across the stone walls. You blink and realize it is only illusion. Yet illusions themselves had power here. How many times did a half-dreaming figure believe they saw a predator in the flicker, only to sigh in relief when it vanished? Perhaps those moments seeded myths of spirits pacing at the threshold, guardians or tricksters, keeping sleepers alert. You draw your hide closer, ears still pricked for the faintest sound. Beyond the storm's howl, you think you hear crunching paws. Maybe it is only branches snapping under ice. Maybe not. That uncertainty was constant in cave life each night, a wager with nature. You rest anyway, because rest is not optional. It is an act of faith, trusting that stone and fire will hold. An odd but poignant discovery at some European sites is the presence of claw marks etched into walls. Some are shallow scratches from humans shaping tools, but others are deeper, older marks of cave bears or big cats long before people settled here. Imagine lying in the dark, eyes drawn to those scars, wondering what beast once prowled this same chamber. They are reminders that safety is relative, that caves are borrowed homes in a world of competitors. And yet, despite the danger, you feel gratitude. Outside, predators own the night. Inside, you sleep. You surrender to drowsiness, knowing that stone wraps you, that fire warns intruders, that kin breathe beside you. The world beyond the entrance may be filled with hungry eyes, but tonight those eyes cannot touch you. The wolves will circle, the snow will fall, the wind will gnash its icy teeth, but here, in your hollow of stone, you are wrapped in warmth, in trust, in the fragile but stubborn gift of rest. You allow yourself to close your eyes, knowing danger will wait until morning, and by then, you will be ready. The fire softens, glowing like a tired heart, and the cave is steeped in shadows that stretch and sway across the stone. You lie back, lids heavy, and begin to notice how those flickering shapes become stories all their own. The bison etched on the wall seems to stir, head lowering as if grazing. A jagged crack in the rock morphs into a hunter's spear. Even the curves of the ceiling mimic the swell of mountains outside. It is not stillness, you see, but a moving theatre, an endless play of light and stone. Excavations at Paleolithic sites show evidence of deliberate use of fire near painted surfaces, suggesting that early artists may have understood how flicker transformed their work. It is widely accepted among researchers that shadows gave the art motion, breathing life into static figures. Children lying on bedding would have seen not just ochre lines but herds running, predators stalking, spirits leaping. Sleep came not in silence but through immersion in this visual dreamscape. You blink slowly, mesmerized. The shadows lengthen, shorten, ripple. Your mind begins to play tricks, turning the randomness of light into coherent patterns. A horse gallops. A bird spreads its wings. Perhaps this was humanity's first cinema. Stories performed by flame long before words etched them. It is hypnotic, this unintentional show. You understand how imagination and sleep blurred together in these spaces. A curious little finding from cave excavations: soot, stained bones with sharpened ends, possibly used as primitive lamps. Researchers believe these bones were filled with fat and lit, casting longer, steadier glows against walls. That extended the shadow play, creating slower, more deliberate dances of light. Imagine lying here, eyes drifting shut, watching a lamp-fed shadow stretch across the ceiling like a migrating bird. Even dreams might begin with those illusions, carried forward into the night. Interpretations differ when it comes to whether these shapes inspired myths or merely entertained restless minds. Some scholars suggest the shadow shows birthed ritual spirits of animals returning through art, guiding hunters in dreams. Others argue it was simpler, a distraction that soothed children and calmed nerves before rest. Neither explanation is certain, yet as you watch shapes stretch and flicker, you realize it doesn't matter. Whether divine or mundane, the result is the same: peace, fascination, the gentle surrender to drowsiness. You let your eyes wander along the jagged stone. The cracks and bulges create endless possibilities: faces, beasts, landscapes. A child whispers softly, pointing to a shadow that looks like a bear. An elder chuckles, weaving a tale about a great spirit watching from above. The story doesn't last long before the rhythm of breathing takes over, but the impression lingers. The cave itself has spoken, its voice a chorus of shadows. An unusual observation from experimental archaeology: modern people placed in firelit caves often report the same sensation: shadows shifting into recognizable shapes, even when they know it's illusion. Our brains crave patterns, finding meaning in randomness. To your ancestors, without scientific explanation, those patterns may have felt like genuine visions. Sleep must have come tinged with awe, as if the world itself leaned down to whisper before you closed your eyes. The shadows ripple across your own skin, painting you in tiger stripes of light and dark. You watch your hand turn into a claw, your outlines stretch into something monstrous. Children likely played with such shapes, their fingers creating birds, wolves, or spirits on the walls. In those playful acts, comfort grew. Fear of the dark melted into laughter, then into slumber. You can almost hear giggles echoing through the chamber, soon swallowed by yawns. Researchers remain divided on whether such nightly shadow shows were intentional or incidental. Did people build fires precisely to animate art, or was it a happy accident of survival? Specialists have yet to settle this debate, but you feel the truth lies somewhere in between. Fire was necessity, art was expression, and together they made nights magical. No one needed to plan it, shadows danced regardless, and people embraced the wonder. The fire crackles again, flaring briefly, and the shadows leap wildly, chaotic, dizzying. You catch your breath, startled, then laugh softly at your own reaction. How many times did your ancestors do the same, startled awake, heart racing, only to realize it was nothing but light and stone? Perhaps these moments even trained the mind, blending vigilance with imagination, teaching humans to balance fear with curiosity. The cave grows warmer as hides and bodies trap heat, yet the shadows remain restless, shifting with every twitch of flame. You begin to let them blur, no longer seeking meaning, simply watching movement. The effect is hypnotic, like staring at ocean waves or drifting clouds. Your thoughts grow slow, your body heavy, The shadow play is no longer entertainment but a pathway, easing you gently into the threshold of dreams. One odd but compelling idea from certain scholars that early humans may have practiced a form of guided dreaming through such rituals. By focusing on shapes before sleep, they carried those images into their subconscious, where they mingled with memory and desire. Dreams of bison, horses, and hunts may have begun as shadows on the wall. You find yourself nodding, believing it easily, as you let the last image linger behind your eyes before shutting them fully. The storm outside rumbles faintly, but here, inside, you are cocooned in light and illusion. Fire has given you warmth, but shadows have given you stories, bridges into another world. You sigh, smile faintly, and allow the cave's moving pictures to fade as dreams take over. The fire softens into glowing coals, its frenzy spent, and the shadows calm with it. Around you, the circle of kin settles deeper into stillness. Yet you notice something new beside the bedding. Within arm's reach lie the tools of survival. Flint blades glint faintly, a spear leans against the wall, and a hammerstone rests heavy where anyone can grab it. Even in slumber, the instinct to prepare never leaves. To drift unarmed in a world of predators would be unthinkable. Most archaeological sites with traces of prehistoric living show not only hearths and bedding, but also clusters of tools scattered around sleeping areas. It is generally accepted by researchers that people kept weapons close at night, not neatly stored away but ready to grasp in a heartbeat. The cave was a home, yes, but it was also a fortress. Sleep could not mean total vulnerability. Stone edges and wooden shafts were guardians as much as fire and walls. You imagine the sensation, lying down with a flint knife under your palm, its edge sharp enough to slice hide or fend off a wolf. The cold stone presses into your skin, uncomfortable but comforting all the same. Like modern people locking doors or setting alarms, your ancestors relied on these tools as reassurance. Each weapon whispered silently, "Rest. I am here if danger comes." Among the more unusual findings at certain European sites are caches of tools tucked into niches near bedding areas. They weren't just scattered randomly, they were arranged, as if deliberately kept close but out of the way of sleep. One peculiar discovery even showed spear points arranged in a fan shape around a hearth, almost like a circle of silent sentinels. Was this mere convenience, or a ritual gesture? Scholars continue to debate. You can almost picture someone placing each spear deliberately before lying down, a bedtime routine as habitual as brushing teeth today. You roll slightly in your bedding, feeling the weight of a hypothetical blade at your side. The thought steadies you. Even if predators dared the fire's edge, even if another band of humans intruded, you would not be empty-handed. The flint is there, the spear is near. The tools themselves become part of your body, extensions of instinct, even while your mind drifts. Of course, not every tool was meant for violence. Some were for comfort scrapers for cleaning hides, bone awls for stitching, hammerstones for cracking marrow. Kept close, they ensured the next day's work began swiftly. Imagine waking before dawn, hunger gnawing, and reaching without thought for a scraper to finish preparing meat. Tools at the bedside meant efficiency, a rhythm of life where work and rest intertwined seamlessly. An odd but delightful observation from modern experimental archaeologists. When they attempt to live as Paleolithic people did, many report feeling strangely secure when sleeping with a stone tool nearby. Even though they know predators won't attack them in controlled environments, the sensation of holding something sharp eases their rest. Perhaps the comfort is primal, buried deep in human memory. Tonight, you feel that same ancient reassurance, your hand curled, as if gripping a blade even in sleep. Researchers remain divided on whether these tools were considered ordinary objects or imbued with symbolic power. Some argue they were mere necessities, scattered casually. Others suggest they were more than that, extensions of identity, talismans against fear. The truth likely lies in between. A knife was both tool and charm, both weapon and reassurance. Sleep, in this light, was never just physical, it was spiritual as well, an act bolstered by the presence of stone guardians. You let your gaze wander to the spear by the wall. Its shadow stretches long, doubling its size in the firelight. The shaft seems alive, a sentinel standing watch. How many generations stared at such silhouettes, trusting them as much as they trusted the fire itself? A spear was not only wood and flint, it was the embodiment of survival, the answer to hunger, the barrier against predators, the guardian of night. Its presence beside your bedding is as calming as the warmth of the fire. One peculiar detail from digs in France and Spain: some flint blades found near sleeping areas were deliberately blunted, their cutting edges worn smooth. Were these tools retired, kept as relics of hunts past? Or perhaps they were safe versions left near children, teaching them the habit of sleeping with stone without the risk of cuts. Interpretations differ, but the idea is charming that even in prehistory, children may have had practice tools, echoes of adult habits guiding them gently into tradition. The cave sighs with night sounds, the crackle of coals, the drip of water, the shifting breaths of sleepers. Yet layered beneath it is the quiet confidence of tools nearby. Your ancestors slept not in helplessness, but with stone and bone within reach. It did not erase danger, but it dulled fear enough for rest to come. You imagine waking suddenly at a noise, the snap of a branch, the growl of a beast. In that moment, your hand would already know where to reach, your body rising half from instinct, half from practice. That readiness was part of sleep itself, woven into the posture of rest. To sleep deeply meant to sleep armed, to let the mind wander while the body stayed coiled like a spring. There is a scholarly debate about whether such vigilance led to fragmented, lighter sleep among early humans. Some argue that constant readiness kept slumber shallow, reducing restorative cycles. Others counter that shared warmth, predator barriers, and tools together provided enough security for true deep sleep. Perhaps the answer is not universal but situational. Some nights heavy with exhaustion after hunts, others lighter, restless, ears tuned for danger. Tonight, you sense yourself slipping into the deeper kind, reassured by fire, kin, and the silent company of stone. Your hand curls again, this time loosely, as if embracing the idea of a tool more than the tool itself. You exhale, letting tension seep out of your shoulders. The presence of blades and spears becomes background, no longer sharp reminders of danger but part of the environment. Just as the bedding cradles your body, the tools cradle your mind, giving permission to drift. Outside, predators still roam. Inside, shadows still shift. But here, in this circle of warmth, every detail has been prepared. Fire tended, hides layered, kin gathered, tools waiting. The stage is set for slumber, and you yield to it fully. The coals dim further, their glow steady but soft. Your eyelids drop, your breath slows, and your last thought before dreams arrive is this: safety is not the absence of threat, it is the readiness to meet it, even in sleep. The hours of night stretch on, longer than you are used to. Winter does this, the sun fades early, and dawn hesitates, leaving humans to swim through an ocean of darkness. Here in the cave, you feel it intensely. The fire's glow has dimmed to a bed of coals, barely enough to paint the walls, and the hush deepens. Your body notices the rhythm of the season as surely as your mind does. The nights are vast, demanding more sleep than summer ever would. It is widely understood among historians of prehistory that the cycle of rest followed the cycle of light. Without clocks or electric lamps, people moved with the seasons. Winter nights brought long hours of slumber, punctuated perhaps by waking intervals. Summer, by contrast, shortened rest, pushing people outdoors for longer hunts and harvests. This seasonal rhythm shaped not only sleep but mood, energy, and survival strategies. You stretch under the hides, aware of the weight pressing more heavily than usual. The body craves stillness in winter, a slow burn of energy to last through lean times. Even today, Modern sleep research finds that people often feel drowsier during darker months, an echo of those ancient rhythms. Your ancestors accepted it naturally. They did not fight the season. They let their bodies sink into deeper, longer slumbers, mirroring the earth itself at rest. An unusual observation by scholars studying circadian biology: some indigenous groups in polar regions today still follow a form of seasonal hibernation, spending extraordinary amounts of time in sleep or quiet rest during the depths of winter. It isn't literal hibernation, like a bear, but it is closer to it than most modern lives allow. Imagine prehistoric families adopting a similar pace, days shortened to small bursts of activity, nights elongated into restorative stillness. You, curled inside the cocoon of the cave, can feel the same pull. Archaeologists continue to discuss whether prehistoric humans segmented their sleep during these long nights. Some evidence drawn from later historical sources suggests people drifted into first sleep soon after dusk, woke for an hour or two in the middle of night, then returned for a second sleep before dawn. Others argue winter exhaustion encouraged long, uninterrupted slumber, especially when fire and bedding offered security. The debate lingers, unresolved, but both possibilities seem plausible as you lie here. Perhaps tonight will bring a single deep rest. Perhaps you will stir later, sit by the embers, then sink down again. Either way, the night grants you hours enough. The cave's air feels heavier now, cool and damp, but you are shielded. Hides and bodies conserve heat, fire radiates a faint pulse, and your limbs sink deeper into softness. The rhythm of dripping water continues, a steady counterpoint to your heartbeat. Outside, the storm has quieted. Though the silence is deceptive, predators move silently, and snow muffles sound. Still, the cave muffles time itself, and you are aware only of slow, deepening rest. One curious little finding at certain sites: clusters of sleeping areas often appeared in semicircles facing the hearth. This arrangement may have helped distribute warmth evenly and allowed everyone to watch the fire if they awoke, but it also resembles ritual design, almost like petals around a center. Whether practical or symbolic, the effect must have been profound. To lie down in such formation, surrounded by kin, staring at a shared flame, was to embody unity. You feel it now, lying in the imagined semicircle, fire at your center like a sun within the night. You wonder what dreams came in such long winters. Did hunters chase mammoths across snowfields in their sleep? Did mothers dream of green summers and ripe berries? Did children imagine animals painted on walls stepping down into life? Dreams must have been vivid, stretched by hours of slumber, shaped by shadows and sounds. Anthropologists have proposed that myths may have grown directly from these long dreamscapes. The boundary between night vision and waking tale was thin, and both wove into culture seamlessly. The scholarly community is not unified on whether long prehistoric nights produced lethargy or creativity. Some researchers suggest extended darkness led to torpor, sluggishness, and depressive moods. Others argue the opposite, that long nights gave time for storytelling, art, and reflection, enriching social life. As you drowse here, you can believe both. There may have been nights of dull heaviness, but also nights when imagination soared, sparked by fire and shadow. You roll slightly, stretching legs that ache from crouching during the day's work. The bedding rustles, straw and hides shifting under your weight. Around you, bodies shift as well. Someone coughs softly. Another sighs. A child murmurs in dream. The communal nest breathes, adjusting itself like one large creature. Its warmth is constant, but its sounds are ever-changing, proof that even in deep night, life stirs. An odd but telling detail from experiments with dark retreats, modern studies, where volunteers live without artificial light, shows that many people naturally extend their sleep to 12 or more hours when given unlimited darkness. They also experience more vivid dreams. It seems our bodies still carry ancient instructions. When nights are long, rest deeply. You feel that instruction in your bones now, a pull older than civilization. guiding you to let go fully. The fire pops faintly, startling a brief glance, then quiets again. Its glow seems smaller, but it is enough. Even coals provide a faint circle of safety, light against the vast dark outside. You know that when one sleeper wakes, they will add another branch, reviving flame. But even if no one stirs for hours, the embers will hold, glowing like quiet stars within the cave. That knowledge eases you further. You do not need to stay vigilant every moment. The night will be tended, whether by fire, by kin, or by time itself. You sigh, nestling deeper into your hide, eyes fluttering. The long night wraps you, demanding no hurry, no alarm. In this cave, time is different. Winter teaches patience, teaches surrender. You let your body learn it again, as countless generations did, to slow, to stretch, to rest longer than seems possible. Sleep is not escape, it is survival, a rhythm aligned with the earth itself. Your final thought before drifting deeper is simple. The night is long, but so are you. You can meet it with warmth, with trust, with dreams that outlast the storm. The coals still breathe faintly, a reddish pulse that glows just enough to remind you of fire's presence. Yet another light joins the scene. Through a narrow crack in the stone ceiling, silver filters down, soft and ghostly. Moonlight. It drips into the chamber as though poured from a celestial cup, catching on damp walls, gleaming faintly on spear points, brushing the hides with pale shimmer. You open your eyes wider, and for a moment, you forget the cold, the smoke, the predators outside. The cave has become a lantern lit by the moon. It is a well-documented truth that prehistoric people lived in harmony with lunar cycles, long before written calendars existed. Phases of the moon guided hunting, gathering, rituals, and most importantly sleep. The waxing and waning silver globe offered rhythm to lives lived without clocks. Tonight, you see firsthand how moonlight seeps through the crack, marking the passage of time in a silent language. Sleep is no longer only fire's domain, it is guided by the heavens above. You let the glow wash over your face. It is cool, unlike the warmth of flames, but not unwelcome. It softens shadows instead of sharpening them, painting walls in delicate tones. The fire's orange dance becomes tempered by this pale partner. The cave is no longer just stone, it is sky, borrowed and contained within rock. You imagine children waking to see the light and asking questions their parents could not fully answer. What is that silver light? Why does it change shape? Questions that linger even now. A curious little detail from archaeological sites: bones carved with notches that some researchers interpret as lunar calendars. These markings may have tracked phases, perhaps for predicting animal migrations or for timing rituals. Imagine a parent marking a piece of bone while lying awake in winter, counting nights by the moonbeam that entered their shelter. Sleep, then, was not merely drifting off. It was woven with observation, the night sky entering the mind as much as the cave air did. Scholars remain divided on whether moonlight disturbed or enhanced prehistoric slumber. Some argue that bright moons kept families awake longer, sparking stories and art under the glow. Others insist that moonlight aligned rest with natural cycles, nudging bodies into steadier rhythms. As you gaze at the pale beam painting the floor, you find yourself leaning toward both. It is both a stimulant and a lullaby, a reminder of mystery and a gentle cue to rest. The silver glow highlights the outlines of kin beside you. Their faces soften, the harsh lines of exhaustion erased by moonlight's caress. A child's cheek gleams, rounded in innocence. An elder's wrinkles blur into smooth shadows, time itself gentled by this celestial brush. You realize moonlight does not judge it, reveals beauty in everything it touches. No wonder myths cast the moon as a goddess, a mother, a keeper of night. Even without names for deities, people must have felt awe in this light. One unusual observation from ethno-historic accounts: some communities in later times believed that sleeping directly under moonlight could bring dreams or visions, even madness if too prolonged. You wonder if similar beliefs began here, in caves where silver slipped through cracks. Did mothers tug hides tighter over children, warning them not to gaze too long? Or did they whisper that the moon's light carried stories, guiding dreamers into the spirit world? Both ideas could be true depending on who whispered the tale. The beam shifts slowly as the moon arcs overhead. You watch it move across the stone, from ceiling to wall, from wall to floor, until it brushes near your hand. You extend a finger into it, smiling faintly at the cool glow. Fire warms, but moonlight soothes. They are opposites, yet together they cradle you. One guards against cold, the other against fear. You sigh, letting both wash into your skin. Archaeologists often point out that many cave paintings cluster in areas where cracks or openings admit natural light. Was this coincidence or deliberate choice? Some argue that artists used moonlight to illuminate walls, giving sacred paintings a silver stage. Others suggest that these spots were chosen simply because people noticed the beauty of light there. Either way, you understand the allure. Tonight, even without ochre or charcoal, the walls feel alive under the moon's touch. The scholarly debate extends further. Did the moon govern human sleep cycles even more strongly than the sun in winter? With days so short, nights stretched vast, the moon became the clock. When it rose bright, people might wake and move. When it hid, people slept deeper. The truth is uncertain, but as you lie here, lulled by its glow, you sense the moon's command. Your body bends to it without resistance. The silence of the cave is deeper now, broken only by water's drip and the occasional sigh of kin. Yet the moonlight changes silence itself, making it feel sacred rather than empty. You think of it as a gift, proof that the outside world still exists, that stars and skies remain even when walls surround you. Perhaps your ancestors saw the moon as a visitor, peeking in to check on their safety, to bless their rest. A peculiar tidbit emerges from folklore collected in later ages. People often believed dreams under full moons were more vivid, sometimes prophetic. You imagine that tradition beginning here, with a sleeper rolling over in the beam and waking with visions too strange to ignore. Tomorrow, perhaps, they would tell others that the moon spoke through dreams. Stories would grow, myths would root, all seeded by the simple play of silver across stone. Your eyes droop again, though you try to hold them open for a moment longer, unwilling to let the beauty slip away. The cave is hushed, silver and amber blending, warmth and coolness balancing. You feel as though you are cradled not just by stone, fire and kin, but by the sky itself. The moon watches, steady and timeless, and you surrender to it gladly. Sleep comes not in darkness but in silver. You drift into dreams under the gaze of a celestial companion, safe within stone, guided by the rhythms of night that shaped humanity from its beginning. The silver thread of moonlight thins as clouds drift across the sky, leaving the cave darker once more. In the hush that follows, another sound rises to fill the space, a long, low call that carries through the night. An owl. Its voice pierces the stillness, echoing between stone walls, then fades into silence again. You lie very still, ears tuned to its rhythm, half startled, half soothed. The cry is eerie, yes, but also strangely comforting, like a reminder that life stirs beyond the cave without threatening to intrude. Most archaeological evidence suggests that prehistoric people lived in landscapes teeming with nocturnal sounds, wolves howling, owls calling, foxes yipping. Without modern insulation or glass, these noises entered directly into their sleep, shaping rest in ways we can barely imagine today. For some, the calls must have been unnerving. For others, they were lullabies, steady signals of a world still functioning as expected. To your ancestors, silence itself may have been more alarming, for silence meant absence of life, perhaps danger. You listen again. The owl calls a second time, deeper now, closer. The sound bounces around the chamber, its timbre altered by rock. In this acoustic theatre, one bird becomes many, as though the cave itself joins the chorus. Some anthropologists believe early people connected these echoes with the supernatural, interpreting nocturnal cries as messages from unseen realms. The cave amplified those beliefs, turning simple calls into voices of spirits. An unusual note comes from folklore. Across many cultures, owls later became symbols of wisdom, death, or prophecy. It's not hard to imagine why. Their eyes glowed in firelight, their calls echoed unnaturally, and their presence was strongest when humans were most vulnerable at night. Perhaps those associations began here, in caves where children stirred under firs at each haunting hoot. Elders may have explained it away with stories, turning fear into meaning. The academic community remains split on whether nocturnal sounds disturbed or supported rest. Some argue that frequent calls fragmented sleep, keeping people in lighter stages. Others suggest these noises blended into a natural soundscape, masking sudden disruptions and helping the brain feel secure. Tonight, lying here with owl cries drifting through the stone, you lean toward the second view. The calls repeat, steady, predictable. They are not interruptions, they are reminders that you are not alone in the night. Your eyes drift half shut as you follow the rhythm. The owl calls, then silence swells, then water drips, then fire crackles. The sounds layer gently, weaving into something larger than any one of them. You realize that prehistoric nights were never silent. They were symphonies composed of elements, animal voices, weather, flame, water, breath. Sleep came not despite the noise, but through it, the body recognizing it as the natural heartbeat of the world. A peculiar detail observed in certain caves, bones of small birds, possibly owls, have been found near hearths. Whether they were hunted for food, feathers, or symbolic meaning is uncertain. Perhaps feathers lined bedding, perhaps bones rattled in ritual, or perhaps the presence of such birds in myth began with their haunting voices outside, creeping into dreams until people sought to embody them in waking life. You imagine an elder keeping an owl feather as a charm beside their bedding, trusting its voice to ward off danger. Another call rings out, longer this time, resonant. A child whimpers faintly, shifting under the hides. A parent's hand soothes, murmuring low, and the child drifts back to sleep. It is a simple act, but it shows how sound shaped bonds. Families comforted one another against the noises of night, weaving reassurance into shared rest. Even fear became communal, softened by touch and voice. You wonder how dreams absorbed these cries. Did sleepers imagine themselves flying with owls, gliding through forests under moonlight? Or did nightmares form, where glowing eyes watched from branches, unblinking, inescapable? Both are possible. Dreams are porous, and the night's soundtrack bleeds easily into them. Perhaps that is why myths grew so rich, because the line between waking sound and dream imagery was so thin. Specialists who study sleep in traditional societies note that natural noises often cue micro-awakenings without full disruption. You can picture it now. One person stirs at the call, opens their eyes briefly, glances at the glowing coals, then closes them again, reassured. These tiny moments stitch together into a long night's rest, lighter but no less restorative. The owl becomes part of the fabric of slumber, not a tear in it. The fire sighs again, releasing a puff of sparks. The owl answers, as though in conversation. You smile faintly at the idea. Flame and bird talking across the night, two guardians with very different tongues. The cave receives both voices and folds them into its stone body. You are just one listener, drifting at the edge of sleep, carried along by their duet. A curious little finding in acoustic studies. Some caves amplify certain frequencies, making owl calls louder or more resonant than others. It may explain why people felt them so significant. To a child growing up in such a cave, the owl might seem larger than life, its call omnipresent, impossible to ignore. Tonight, as the sound swells in your ears, you feel the truth of it. This bird's voice is not small. It is the night's anthem. Your eyelids sink lower, each call blending more seamlessly with your breathing. The owl cries again, but softer now, or perhaps more distant. You cannot tell whether it has flown farther, or whether you are already halfway to dreams. The cave holds you, cradled between stone and sound, between fear and comfort. Outside, predators pace, snow drifts, branches creak, but within, the voices of night are not enemies, they are companions. You surrender to them, letting their rhythm carry you across the threshold. In this cave, in this winter, even the owl's haunting song becomes a lullaby. Your belly feels heavy now, stretched after the evening's meal. The faint taste of fat still lingers on your tongue, smoky and rich from the fire. You close your eyes, but the memory of the feast hovers, strips of roasted meat shared hand to hand, marrow cracked from bones, bitter roots chewed slowly, and berries stored from autumn now wrinkled but still sweet. Food does more than fill you, it changes the way sleep settles in your body. Excavations of Paleolithic sites often reveal heaps of animal bones near hearths, charred on the edges, telling stories of what families ate before curling into hides. It is generally accepted that diets heavy in protein and fat helped sustain people through freezing winters. The body burned slowly, releasing heat long into the night. A belly warmed with reindeer meat or mammoth fat meant rest came faster, steadier. Tonight, you feel it yourself, the warm tide of food spreading outward, coaxing muscles into slackness. You roll slightly on your bedding, hearing straw creak beneath, and sense how food's weight anchors you. Sleep isn't only about fire, hides, or kin, it's also about what you've eaten. An empty stomach would gnaw restlessly, waking you with hunger pangs. A satisfied one drapes you in heaviness. Modern research echoes this truth. High-protein, high-fat meals often induce drowsiness, as the body diverts energy into digestion. It seems science and instinct walk the same path. A curious little discovery from analysis of prehistoric dentalware shows traces of starch grains and plant fibers, proving that meals weren't all meat. People dug for roots, gathered nuts, dried fruits, even stored tubers for lean months. Imagine chewing on a tough root before bed, its earthy bitterness coating your mouth. Not a luxury, but a reminder that variety existed even in scarcity. Each bite shaped the night's rest differently, meat sedating, roots steadying, berries lightening the mood. Anthropologists continue to debate whether heavy meals late in the evening improved or disrupted sleep. One view suggests that digestion created warmth, perfect for slumber. Another argues that it stirred the body, making dreams restless or waking more frequent. Perhaps both are true depending on what was eaten, how much, and how weary the body already was. Tonight, though, your own experience leans toward the first. Full, warm, and exhausted, you feel sleep pulling stronger than ever. Your mind drifts back to the scene of the meal, firelight flickering over hands tearing meat, grease shining on lips, bones cracked with sharp stones to release marrow, the air thick with the smell of fat dripping into flame, children chewing berries saved in woven baskets, red stains bright against their chins. Even laughter echoing, yes, even in the harshest winters, meals could bring joy. That joy carried into rest, softening the body's edges. Sleep arrived not just from warmth, but from the memory of sharing, of bellies filled together. An odd observation noted by archaeologists. Traces of pine nuts and acorns appear in hearth ash at some sites. These small foods, easily overlooked, might have been roasted before sleep, releasing nutty aromas. Imagine lying here, nose catching that faint scent, even as eyes flutter shut. Food was not only sustenance, it was part of the atmosphere, woven into the lullaby of smell and taste. You sigh, feeling the heaviness deepen. Your limbs resist movement, your body surrendering to gravity. This is the work of diet as much as bedding. A belly full of fat-rich meat signals your brain to rest, to slow, to conserve. Hunger drives wakefulness. Fullness permits dreams. You realize this is the hidden rhythm of winter nights. Eat, warm, sleep, repeat. The cave was not simply shelter. It was a dining hall, a hearth, a bed, all in one. The scholarly community is not in full agreement on how storage of food influenced sleep patterns. Some propose that groups who managed to store dried meats and roots slept easier, less troubled by hunger. Others argue that scarcity forced fragmented nights, with people waking to snack on small reserves. The truth may be varied. Tonight, in your imagination, abundance reigns. The meal was hearty, the leftovers safe from predators, and so you sink into uninterrupted slumber. You recall the taste of berries last slightly sour, tangy against the richness of meat. They brighten your mouth even now, a final flourish before sleep. Perhaps children clung to such flavors in dreams, imagining summers of abundance as they curled in winter hides. Food wasn't just fuel, it was memory. It was promise. To drift into dreams with a taste of sweetness must have softened even the harshest night. Another curious tidbit. Coprolite analysis, yes. Ancient preserved waste shows evidence of medicinal plants consumed alongside meals. Some may have acted as mild sedatives, easing coughs or calming stomachs. Imagine chewing bitter leaves before bed, grimacing, but knowing they'd help you breathe easier. Medicine disguised as supper, leading straight into calmer sleep. Even without knowing the chemistry, instinct guided people toward plants that helped rest. The fire crackles faintly, belly warm, body heavy. You let yourself recall the rhythm of eating, the sound of bones breaking, the murmur of kin in satisfaction. These echoes fade now into slower breaths. The meal transformed into warmth inside you. Your body thanks the feast by surrendering, muscles melting into straw and fur. Outside, predators still sniff at scraps. But inside, fullness guards you. Hunger has no claws tonight, no teeth gnawing in the dark. You are safe in body and mind, carried into dreams not only by warmth and shadows, but by the steady anchor of a satisfied belly. Your last conscious thought is simple and deeply human. I am fed. I can rest. The cave is warm with breath and fire, but the air grows heavy. You inhale and notice something new, a resinous sharpness, a faint sweetness threading through the smoke. Someone has tossed a chunk of pine sap into the embers. It hisses, sputters, and releases a fragrance so distinct it cuts through the damp. The scent clings to your nostrils, soothing and invigorating at once. Archaeological findings from sites in Europe and the Near East reveal charred traces of resin and herbs in hearth ash, suggesting people intentionally burned plant material not only for light, but for scent and function. Many researchers accept that pine, juniper, and other evergreens were valued for their cleansing smoke. The aroma wasn't decoration. It eased breathing, masked harsher smells, and perhaps even discouraged insects. Tonight, you feel the air shift immediately, less oppressive, more breathable, as if the cave itself exhales in relief. You lean closer to the fire, watching the resin bubble and pop. Its sticky body liquefies, oozing like honey before turning black. The smell deepens, sharp yet pleasant. It mingles with the musk of hides, the mineral damp, and the char of meat, layering the cave's atmosphere into something richer. To you, it feels almost medicinal. Your chest opens slightly, your cough eases. You wonder if your ancestors noticed the same, learning over time that certain plants made nights easier. One odd but telling detail from experiments. Burning pine resin releases antimicrobial compounds. While prehistoric people could not have known the chemistry, they may have recognized the effect: fewer coughs, fewer infections, cleaner air. Imagine them carrying bundles of resin, precious as firewood, reserved for winter nights when illness stalked. Inhaling now, you understand why. The air feels lighter, and your mind begins to quiet. Interpretations differ when it comes to whether herbs were burned deliberately for ritual or simply tossed in as fuel. Some scholars argue that aromatic plants played a spiritual role, carrying prayers in their smoke. Others insist it was pragmatic. Resin was sticky, flammable, and convenient. Perhaps both are true. Practicality and spirituality often blend in human life. Tonight, you suspect the ancestors enjoyed the dual benefit: cleaner lungs and calmer spirits. The smell triggers memories you don't own but can imagine: long forests of evergreens, needles crunching underfoot, sap sticky on fingers. Perhaps someone gathered the resin earlier in autumn, prying it from bark, saving it for moments like this. A small effort during daylight now ripples into night's comfort. You feel grateful, though you don't know whom to thank. The fire hisses louder as another piece is thrown in. Smoke thickens briefly, then spreads evenly through the chamber. Children cough at first, but then settle, their breathing quieter. An elder murmurs approval. The bedding shifts as bodies resettle. You realize this ritual, adding resin, might have been as much a nightly act as feeding the flames. In time, it would become habit, expectation, perhaps even tradition. A curious little discovery at some sites: sprigs of herbs like yarrow and chamomile pressed into bedding layers. Whether for softness, pest control, or scent, their presence hints at a desire for more than bare survival. People sought comfort. Imagine lying on straw fragrant with crushed leaves, the smell lingering as you drift off. It is such a small thing, yet profoundly human. Even in caves, people wanted to breathe beauty. You stretch under the hides, inhaling deeply. The resin's aroma mingles with fatigue, pulling you closer to slumber. Your mind softens. You recall modern traditions: incense in temples, herbs in pillows, oils in lamps. They are not inventions of civilization, they are continuations of something much older. Tonight you smell the origin, raw and primal, yet as calming as any candlelit bedroom. The scholarly community is divided on whether these practices were widespread or localized. Some argue that herbal smoke was a universal tool across cultures. Others believe it was limited, shaped by local vegetation and knowledge. The truth is blurred, yet the result is clear. People discovered that sleep improves when air smells cleaner, sweeter, gentler. You feel that truth seep into your bones as you breathe more easily. You imagine the cave now layered in scents: musk of hides, tang of damp stone, char of meat, and now, the bright sharpness of pine. It is a perfume of survival, earthy and grounding. Your eyelids flutter as the fragrance cradles you, a lullaby made of molecules. Sleep feels closer, not forced but invited, as if the air itself is coaxing you to rest. One unusual observation: in some cave chambers, resinous deposits are found far from hearths, smeared on walls or mixed into paints. Perhaps resin wasn't only burned but used as binder for pigments, or even as a ritual incense during painting. If true, then every sense, sight, smell, touch was engaged during nightly rituals. You lie here imagining artists coating walls under the same scent you now breathe, their minds sharpened by resin smoke as their children drifted to sleep nearby. The firelight flickers as resin flares bright, a final crackle before softening again. The cave fills with fragrant haze, gentler now, no longer harsh. Your lungs expand easily, and your heartbeat slows. The resin has worked its spell, whether through chemistry or suggestion. Sleep approaches like a tide, steady and unstoppable. You curl deeper into your hide, letting the scent linger. Outside, snow piles higher. Inside, the air is warmer, sweeter, safer. You smile faintly, knowing your ancestors found this comfort long before science could explain it. They discovered that to sleep well, one must not only fight cold but also care for breath. Tonight, you share in that ancient wisdom. And so, lulled by pine and smoke, you surrender to dreams, lungs, and spirit both at ease. The fire glows steadily, resin still crackling faintly, and you turn your head toward a quieter corner of the cave. There, bundled tightly in hides and moss, are the children, small bodies curled against the rock wall, their cheeks ruddy from warmth, their breaths puffing faintly in the cool air. You watch them with a softness that comes unbidden, the way adults everywhere feel when gazing at sleeping children. Their presence makes the cave more than stone and fire. It makes it home. Archaeological excavations often uncover miniature footprints near hearths and bedding, proof that children shared these spaces intimately. It is widely accepted that even in prehistoric nights, little ones slept close to parents, wrapped in communal furs for both warmth and protection. To imagine them placed apart, left alone, feels unthinkable. The dangers of cold and predators demanded closeness. You see it now. Their small hands tucked into their mother's sides, their bodies nested within layers of hides. One curious little finding from South African sites shows bedding layers interwoven with softer grasses, possibly chosen for children. The grasses resisted insects better and made surfaces more comfortable. You picture parents gathering such materials deliberately, giving their children the best place to rest. Even in scarcity, care was abundant. Comfort for the youngest was survival for the group. Debates persist among scholars about whether children's presence in caves shaped the rhythm of adult rest. Some argue that constant waking feeding infants, soothing cries fragmented slumber. Others propose the opposite, that the sound of children breathing reassured parents, easing them into sleep. As you listen to the faint sighs and murmurs from the corner, you lean toward reassurance. The small sounds are not disruptions, they are proof of continuity, of life carried forward. You imagine one child stirring, eyes half opening, whispering for water or warmth. A parent shifts without hesitation, adjusting the hide, murmuring low. The child drifts back almost instantly, comforted by touch more than words. These nightly rituals, small and repetitive, must have shaped bonds as strong as any hunt or feast. Night after night, love expressed itself in gestures invisible to archaeologists, but etched deeply in human memory. An unusual note: in certain burial sites, children were found interred with miniature tools or ornaments, suggesting they were seen as full members of the community from birth. If such care was given in death, how much more must it have been given in life, particularly in fragile winter nights? You look at the little forms sleeping now, and you know that every adult in the cave watches over them, even unconsciously, as part of the group's unspoken pact. You roll slightly, bedding rustling, and realize how much children must have influenced stories told by the fire. Their questions, their fears, their laughter all wove into the fabric of night. Perhaps parents told tales to settle them, turning predators into mythical creatures, turning shadows into playful spirits. These bedtime stories were as vital as food, easing small minds into rest so the group could rest as well. The echoes of those tales may be the ancestors of the lullabies and fairy tales we know today. Researchers continue to explore whether play spaces in caves, small alcoves with scattered bones, or tools served as daytime corners for children. If so, then the transition at night, when play gave way to sleep, must have been profound. Imagine a child falling asleep under the same wall they had earlier used to play shadow games, laughter turning to snores, imagination to dream. Even in prehistory, childhood had its cycles, familiar and comforting. One odd but telling discovery: beads and shells sometimes found near child remains suggest that adornment, perhaps even toys, accompanied them. Did children clutch these trinkets while sleeping? Did parents tuck charms into their bedding to guard against nightmares? The thought feels tender, almost too modern to be true, yet entirely possible. Even in caves, the instinct to comfort children with objects of beauty may have existed. You watch as one child stretches in slumber, a small fist opening, then curling again. The movement is fragile, delicate, and yet it carries the weight of survival. Each child's rest meant the continuation of the group. Every adult knew this instinctively. The hush of the cave is not only to protect sleepers but to protect the future itself. The scholarly community still debates whether high infant mortality shaped parental attachment into something more distant or more intense. Some argue that loss made bonds tentative. Others believe it only deepened parents' devotion, since each child represented precious continuity. In the glow of this cave, with furs wrapped tightly around little forms, you sense intensity. The tenderness here feels ancient, raw, but undeniable. These children are not just individuals, they are the tribe's heartbeat. You breathe deeply, inhaling the mingled scents of resin, hides, and smoke, and realize how much of this atmosphere is shaped by children. Their presence alters the soundscape, the pace, the very feel of night. A cave of adults might rest in heavier silence. A cave with children hums with faint whimpers, soft breaths, the occasional sleepy murmur. It is less still but more alive. You smile faintly, drifting closer to your own dreams, imagining that you, too, are tucked against a parent's side, guarded and cherished. Perhaps you even carry a charm in your small hand, a bead or feather, warm from the fire. The cave is vast, the winter fierce, the predators near, but in this cocoon, safety feels absolute. And so, as the children breathe steadily, their dreams mingling with the fire's glow, the entire group yields to the comfort of continuity. The youngest rest, and because of that, the oldest can rest too. The night stretches on, and with it, the gentle promise of tomorrow. The hush of the children fades into another presence above your head. As you let your gaze wander up toward the walls and ceiling, faint lines emerge in the firelight. They are not cracks or shadows this time. They are deliberate strokes of ochre, smears of charcoal, patterns pressed by hands long ago. Painted animals peer down at you, bison broad, shouldered and proud, horses mid-gallop, deer with tall antlers branching like trees. They are frozen, yet alive, their eyes catching sparks of fire as though blinking. Archaeological discoveries at sites like Lascaux and Chauvet reveal that painted caves often doubled as living and sleeping spaces. Most experts accept that these images were not mere decorations, they carried significance. Perhaps spiritual, perhaps instructional, perhaps both. To sleep beneath them was to be watched by more than family, it was to lie under the gaze of spirits, of creatures larger than life, guardians or guides for the night. You shift slightly, neck craned back, and imagine how such paintings must have shaped rest. A child staring upward might see not just pigment, but herds of animals marching across stone. An adult, eyes closing, might dream of the hunt more vividly because of these constant images. The cave became not only shelter but also a gallery of imagination, dreams seeded before sleep even began. An unusual detail from certain painted caves. Some images were placed specifically above or near sleeping areas. Archaeologists wonder if this was coincidence or design. Did families deliberately choose spots under bison rather than blank walls, hoping for protection in sleep? Did paintings of predators serve as warnings, reminders even in dreams to stay alert? There is no definitive answer, but the placement itself raises questions that linger in your mind as you lie here beneath the stone herd. Debates among scholars remain lively about whether these paintings were viewed only in rituals or seen daily by those who lived inside. Some argue the art was sacred, reserved for ceremonies deep in the caves, far from sleeping chambers. Others note that soot and ash near painted walls suggest fires burned regularly below them, meaning people lived with these images constantly. You, staring up at ochre forms, believe the latter. They are too present, too vivid, too close to ignore. The fire flickers, and shadows ripple across painted bodies. Suddenly the bison appear to move, the horse's legs to kick, the deer's antlers to sway. The illusion is startling but mesmerizing. Perhaps this was the artist's intention to animate the animals, to blur lines between stone and life. To you, lying beneath, it feels like the beginning of a dream while still awake. A curious little discovery. Some paintings contain multiple legs or overlapping outlines, as if artists were deliberately suggesting movement. Under flickering fire, those forms would have seemed to run. Imagine the impact on sleepers, half drowsy, watching herds migrate across the ceiling. Dreams must have followed naturally, full of motion, full of life. You breathe slowly, letting your eyes linger on the ochre strokes. The smell of resin still lingers in the air, mingling with smoke, as if even the atmosphere honors these images. You wonder if families whispered prayers to the animals before sleep, asking bison for strength, horses for speed, deer for vigilance. Sleep itself might have been seen as entering the animal's world, guided by the painted spirits above. The scholarly community is divided on whether cave art was primarily symbolic or practical. Some see it as magic to ensure successful hunts, others as memory aids, teaching children about creatures of the world. But as you lie here, eyelids drooping, you realize the paintings also served another role. They created atmosphere. They made the cave more than rock. They made it alive, meaningful, safe. Sleep came easier when walls were not blank but filled with presence. One odd but fascinating finding: handprints, red and black silhouettes pressed onto walls, sometimes tiny, belonging to children. Imagine lying beneath your own mark, a handprint you made earlier in the day. Each night, you would sleep under proof of your existence, your place in the world. It is a comfort modern bedrooms rarely match. Tonight, you imagine your palm pressed above, glowing faintly in firelight, keeping watch as you drift off. The animals gaze down, silent, unblinking, yet they seem more alive than many humans you've known. Their stillness hums with power. You feel it seep into you, a reassurance that you are part of something larger, a cycle of predator and prey, of hunter and hunted, of survival itself. The art tells you, you belong, and in that belonging, rest comes freely. You close your eyes at last, though the images remain vivid behind your lids. Bison thunder, horses run, deer leap. They accompany you into the dream world, guides painted not only on walls but in memory. You sink deeper, carried by art as much as by bedding or fire. Outside, the storm quiets. Inside, spirits of animals breathe with you. You sigh, body heavy, mind drifting, and let the painted herd carry you across the threshold into dreams. Snow falls heavier outside, piling against the cave mouth until its silence presses inward. The opening narrows, edges blurred by white. As drifts accumulate, sound itself changes. The howling of wind dulls to a muted hum, as though the cave has been tucked under a blanket. The world beyond grows distant, muffled by layers of snow, while inside you feel wrapped in a deeper hush. Archaeological evidence from high-latitude sites shows that snowdrifts often sealed entrances during winter, sometimes deliberately encouraged by humans piling branches to trap flakes. Scholars generally agree this accidental insulation worked in their favor. Instead of icy drafts sweeping through the chamber, the snow acted as a natural barrier, cocooning families in stillness. You experience it now, the sudden calm when the storm outside can no longer claw its way in. You draw in a breath. The air is cooler, yes, but oddly steady. Without gusts rattling the fire, flames burn more consistently. Smoke curls upward with less turbulence. The entire cave feels calmer, as though the earth itself decided to protect its occupants. You realize snow, once feared as enemy, can also serve as guardian. It keeps out predators too, dulling scents, muting footsteps. A wolf may circle outside, but its approach is softened, almost invisible. One unusual observation from archaeological digs: soot lines on cave ceilings, sometimes thin near entrances, suggesting periods when airflow was drastically reduced. Researchers propose that snow sealed caves so tightly that smoke barely escaped. This may have been both blessing and curse, warmth preserved, yet air heavy with haze. Imagine families balancing gratitude for the muffled quiet with irritation at stinging eyes. Tonight, you taste that balance in your throat, the smoky tang sharper but tolerable against the gift of calm. The scholarly community remains divided on whether snow-sealed caves were sought deliberately or merely endured. Some argue humans welcomed the insulation, adjusting fires to cope. Others believe they viewed blocked entrances as dangerous, fearing suffocation or entrapment. You, lying in your bedding, sense both perspectives. Relief at the muffled world competes with the unease of being sealed away, as if the cave has swallowed you whole. The quiet is profound. The owl's cries vanish. The wolf's howls fade to whispers. Even the drip of water sounds gentler, cushioned by snow. It is as though you have entered a womb, encased in silence older than words. Your body responds, instinctively. Breathing slows, shoulders loosen, eyelids sink. Sleep finds you more easily in this cocoon of stillness. A curious little note from modern ethnography. In Arctic communities, snow houses, igloos, create nearly identical effects. Warmth preserved, noise reduced, rest deepened. Though caves and igloos differ, the principle is the same. Snow, enemy of hunters in the open, becomes friend when walls and roofs harness it. Tonight you share that experience, tucked into a cradle carved by winter itself. The fire glows against the white drift at the mouth, turning snow into a glowing wall of amber. Shadows dance across it, alive yet harmless. Children stir to glance, then smile, reassured that nothing can break through. Adults shift, pulling hides tighter, acknowledging that for tonight, no wind will tear their slumber. The snow is both barrier and blanket, part of the cave's design. You exhale, noticing how sound changes inside your own chest. Without external noise, your heartbeat seems louder, each thump echoing faintly in your ears. You realize early humans may have experienced similar awareness, turning inward when the world outside muted. Perhaps they used such nights for deeper dreams, or even visions. Sleep becomes not just rest, but exploration of the inner self, when outside distractions vanish. Interpretations differ on whether long, silent nights bred anxiety or peace. Some researchers claim silence heightened fear, making every small cave sound ominous. Others suggest it calmed minds, allowing restorative sleep. Your own reaction leans toward peace. The snow's embrace feels protective. Even the occasional pop of firewood seems gentler, more rhythmic. You feel rocked by the earth itself, as though the cave has become a cradle. One odd archaeological finding. In certain sealed caves, ash layers were unusually thick, suggesting families let fires burn longer when ventilation was poor. Perhaps they feared the cold more than smoke. Perhaps they trusted the snow to filter air through tiny pores unseen. Either way, they slept under heavier haze, trading perfect breath for security. You sense the same now, lungs working harder, but heart steadier. Safety, once more, comes not in purity but in compromise. The snow muffles footsteps too. If predators pace outside, you cannot hear them. That ignorance is its own comfort. Sleep is easier without constant reminders of what lurks beyond. For one night, at least, you are deaf to danger. The world shrinks to fire, kin, stone, and your own breath. The longer you lie in the muffled silence, the heavier your body feels. Each sound grows distant. The crackle of resin, the drip of water, the sigh of hides shifting. They do not vanish, but they soften, layered under silence like pebbles under snow. Your brain drifts, lulled by absence, tricked into believing the world itself has gone still. It is the perfect stage for dreams. You close your eyes, breathing the smoky, resin-sweet air, and let the muffled night cradle you. Outside, storms rage, predators roam, snow piles. Inside, you rest in silence, sealed away, safe in the womb of winter. The cave is hushed, the snow piled thick against the entrance, and yet even in such stillness you feel a familiar ache creeping through your bones. The bedding is soft enough, the fire steady, but the stone beneath remains hard, unyielding. Your hips press into it, your shoulders complain, your knees stiffen. Age does not matter. Even the young wake with soreness after nights on stone. You shift slightly, seeking relief, but every movement reminds you of the cold ground beneath. Archaeological studies of early skeletons show telltale signs of wear: arthritic joints, compressed spines, and thickened bone growths. It is widely understood that prehistoric life was hard not only because of hunts and dangers, but because rest itself took a toll. Night after night on firm rock, no mattress beyond hides and straw, the body bore the marks of endurance. You can feel it now, how the ground itself leaves its memory in your muscles. You curl tighter, trying to find warmth and comfort together. The hides soften the worst of it, but stone pushes back, indifferent. Your ancestors adapted, their bodies toughened, their thresholds shifted, yet pain must have lingered. Imagine an elder groaning softly as they turned, joints swollen, back stiff. Younger kin would listen, perhaps offering extra hides, but nothing erased the hardness fully. Sleep came, but never without its price. A curious little finding from some burial sites is the presence of shells or flat stones smoothed and placed beneath bodies. Some researchers speculate they were pillows or supports for aching heads and necks. Others think they were symbolic offerings. Either way, the impulse is clear: to soften the unyielding earth, even just a little. Tonight, as your own neck strains against the floor, you imagine reaching for such a stone shaped by hand, cradling you into easier dreams. Scholarly debate continues about how much the cold contributed to these aches. Some argue that dampness and freezing temperatures worsened arthritis, making bones stiff long before old age. Others suggest genetics played the larger role. Both may be true. As you breathe the cool, smoky air, you feel how the chill seeps into joints, how the body reacts instinctively, curling to protect itself. Pain is not an exception, it is part of the nightly ritual. You listen to the others around you. Some snore deeply, exhausted into indifference. Others stir, shifting, coughing, muttering. The communal nest cannot erase discomfort, only share it. Perhaps the closeness helps misery spread across many shoulders is easier to bear. You think of how humans always sought companionship in hardship. Even now, the groans of kin feel less isolating than your own. An unusual observation from modern recreations of Paleolithic bedding. When participants slept on furs and straw, many reported soreness but also surprising resilience. After several nights, their bodies adjusted. Muscles adapted, pain dulled, rest deepened, despite the hard surface. It seems even discomfort, repeated enough, can transform into familiarity. Tonight, you feel that transition beginning. The ache in your hips dulls, your spine relaxes. The body, though stubborn, learns how to rest on stone. Still, you wonder about remedies. Did families rub aching joints with animal fat, warm against skin? Did they heat stones by the fire and press them to sore muscles? Such practices are unproven but imaginable. Necessity breeds invention, and the human need for comfort has always been relentless. You picture an elder pressing a warm stone to their knees, sighing in relief before sleep finally overtook them. The scholarly community is not unified on whether prehistoric aches shortened lifespans dramatically. Some evidence suggests many lived long enough to show advanced arthritis, meaning they endured discomfort for decades. Others believe chronic pain limited activity, leading to earlier deaths. The truth has always likely varied, but one thing feels certain: as you shift against the hides, pain did not stop life. It accompanied it, like smoke accompanies fire, ever present, sometimes irritating but survivable. You close your eyes, acknowledging the ache without fighting it. The trick is not to banish pain, but to fold it into the rhythm of night. The body learns to rest even while sore, to dream even while stiff. Perhaps that is the hidden strength of your ancestors, not that they avoided hardship, but that they slept in its presence, woke with it, carried it, and still endured. One odd but striking tidbit: some cave skeletons show healed fractures, meaning people survived serious injuries for years. That survival implies care. Others must have helped them, carried burdens, ensured they could rest. You imagine a hunter with a broken leg lying in this very bedding, tended by family, enduring nights of ache but surviving because others cared enough to keep them safe. In that tenderness lies the secret to humanity's endurance. Your eyelids droop again. The ache does not vanish, but it dulls into background, like the smoke or the drip of water. It is part of the cave, part of the body, part of life. And with that acceptance, You let yourself sink further into rest, trusting that even in discomfort, sleep will come. The fire sighs, the snow holds, the bodies around you breathe steadily. Pain lingers, but dreams rise anyway. You yield, proving again what your ancestors knew, that rest is not the absence of ache, but the art of surrendering despite it. The ache in your joints fades as you drift, but another sensation rises in its place, the pulse of breath. You become aware of it not only in your own chest, but in the chorus of bodies all around you. The cave itself seems to inhale and exhale, as though it is alive, filled with lungs beating in unison. The sound is soft but constant, air moving in, air moving out, woven into the fabric of night. Archaeologists studying prehistoric living spaces often remark on how tightly people slept in relation to one another. It is generally accepted that in such close quarters, the rhythm of breathing became a collective song. One person's inhale brushed against another's cheek. One exhale warmed another's neck. The air was shared, recycled, exchanged countless times in a single night. You feel it now, the faint warmth of someone's breath grazing your skin, the mingling of lungs creating a climate of their own. You notice how your body adjusts unconsciously. Your breathing slows to match the cadence around you, aligning itself with the greater rhythm. Modern sleep research has shown that people in communal settings often synchronize their breath and even their heart rates. Perhaps this is why you feel calmer now, as if the group itself rocks you to sleep. It is not just you resting, it is all of you, together, like one animal with many hearts. A curious little finding in some caves is the pattern of blackened walls near low ceilings, proof that air was heavy and still. Smoke gathered, oxygen thin, yet people survived. Some researchers suggest that collective breathing may have trained bodies to tolerate such conditions, lungs adapting to less than perfect air. Tonight you notice it yourself. Each inhale a little thicker, but easier because everyone breathes the same. Shared adaptation becomes shared resilience. Scholars remain divided on whether this communal breathing was purely practical or held symbolic meaning. Some argue it was simply consequence of proximity. Others propose that people may have seen it as proof of kinship, the literal sharing of life force, breath blending into breath. You can almost imagine an elder explaining to a child, "See, our spirits are together. We breathe the same air. That is why we survive." Whether fact or metaphor, the effect is undeniable. You let your ears open wider, listening not to one voice but to the chorus. A child breathes quickly, shallow and high-pitched. An elder breathes slow, a rumble deep in the chest. Between them, adults fall somewhere in the middle, creating layers of sound. It is imperfect, yet strangely harmonious, like a song without instruments. Each exhale is a note, each inhale the pause before the next. An unusual observation from sleep experiments with traditional groups. Participants reported feeling uneasy when forced to sleep in silence alone. In contrast, hearing others breathe near them deepened their rest. The sound was reassurance, proof of safety. Tonight you feel that truth in your bones. Each inhale around you is like a guard's signal. I am alive. I am here. You are not alone. You exhale slowly, matching the rhythm of the person beside you. The warmth of their breath mingles with yours, and you smile faintly at the intimacy of it. No romance here, no embarrassment, only survival. To breathe together is to live together. In winter's heart, this truth is more powerful than any spear. One odd but touching detail emerges from ethnographic accounts. In some cultures, breath was thought to carry pieces of the soul. To share breath was to share spirit. If similar beliefs existed in prehistory, then sleep itself may have been seen as a merging of lives, souls braided together through exhalations. Tonight, you sense the poetry of it. Dreams may not belong to you alone, they belong to the shared air of the cave. The fire flares briefly, then dims again. Shadows move across sleeping faces, but breathing remains steady. Even in shifting light, the rhythm holds, unbroken. You realize that in such conditions, even waking in the night would feel different. To sit up, to look around, to hear everyone breathing it would ease fear immediately. Nothing is more calming than proof that the group endures. The scholarly community continues to discuss whether such tight living conditions caused disease to spread faster. Some argue it did, and skeletal evidence of infections supports the concern. Others counter that the benefits of shared warmth and safety outweighed the risks. As you breathe in smoky, recycled air, you feel both truths pressing in. Illness was always possible, but loneliness would have been far deadlier. Your eyelids droop, and the chorus grows softer, blending until you cannot tell whose breath is whose. The cave becomes a lung, rising and falling, sighing with life. You are part of it, inseparable, carried by the group's rhythm. Even dreams begin to echo with breath, each image tied to inhale and exhale. One peculiar tidbit. In certain preserved sites, ancient bedding layers are found packed tightly, suggesting people lay so close that their heads nearly touched. Picture the intimacy of that. Breath-brushing hair, warmth-sealing gaps. Tonight you imagine lying in such closeness, your cheek against another's shoulder, your breath joining theirs. There is no privacy here, but there is profound comfort. You close your eyes fully, surrendering to the rhythm. The cave sighs. You sigh. Kin sigh. All together, one tide of air. The world outside may be wild, sharp, merciless, but inside this chamber breath is shared, and in that sharing lies safety. Your last thought before dreams is as simple as the act itself. I breathe, you breathe, we breathe. Therefore we rest. The chorus of breathing steadies you, but then another sound rises above it, a voice, soft and low, almost a whisper. An elder speaks. Their tone is not commanding, not even conversational, but lulling, like water slipping over stones. The words are simple, perhaps half-formed, yet they catch your attention in the drowsy dark. It is a story, and in this cave, a story is as essential as fire. Archaeological traces cannot capture words, but ethnographic parallels suggest that oral storytelling is among the oldest human traditions. Around fires, under hides, families passed the hours with tales of animals, ancestors, spirits. It is generally agreed that such stories were not only entertainment, they were memory, teaching, comfort. Tonight you listen as the elder's murmur weaves through the chamber, carrying images that soothe even as your eyelids sink. The tale begins with a great stag, its antlers stretching wider than the trees, wandering across snowy plains. You picture it clearly, the firelight painting shadows on the walls to match the description. Children shift in their bedding, drawn half awake by the familiar cadence. Adults smile faintly, knowing the story as well as their own names. It has been told many times, yet repetition is part of its charm. The stag always wanders, always triumphs, always reminds listeners of strength in lean times. One curious detail from later hunter-gatherer groups. Bedtime stories often mirrored the practical world hunting animals, surviving winters but clothed them in magic. They taught children how to live, while also giving adults a sense of purpose. The line between myth and manual blurred. You feel that blending now as the elder describes the stag scraping snow to find hidden grasses. It is both fantasy and instruction, teaching patience and endurance. Scholars remain divided on whether these tales were purely pedagogical or spiritual. Some argue they were mnemonic devices, practical lessons remembered through rhythm. Others insist they were sacred, a way of calling animal spirits into dreams. You, half drifting, sense both. The story soothes and instructs, comforts and elevates. It turns survival into meaning. The fire pops, scattering sparks, and the elder's voice lowers further, almost conspiratorial. The children lean in instinctively, though they are already half asleep. The stag meets a wolf in the tale now, and tension hums briefly, but the wolf bows, respecting the stag's strength. Children's eyes close fully at that point, satisfied. conflict has resolved. Sleep comes easier with endings that reassure rather than frighten. An unusual observation from caves with painted walls. The images often align with themes of oral tales still found among indigenous groups today. Bison, deer, horses, all play starring roles. Though the exact words are lost, the continuity of imagery suggests deep roots. Tonight's story may be one of countless variations across time, stretching backward like the stag's trail across snow. The elder continues, voice thinning, words spacing farther apart. Even their storytelling reflects the rhythm of sleep, slowing until silence fills the gaps. Perhaps this is deliberate, a technique honed over generations. Speak until the listeners drift, then stop. A story does not need a final line. Sleep provides the ending. One odd but delightful tidbit. Modern researchers in dark retreats sometimes begin speaking to themselves aloud before sleep, finding that stories calm their minds. It suggests that the instinct to tell tales before resting is ancient, built into our species. Without it, silence can feel too wide, too empty. Tonight you are grateful for the voice, for the cadence, for the words that carry you gently across the edge. The scholarly community debates whether such tales were communal or individual. Some argue everyone contributed, each adult offering fragments until the story grew like a braided rope. Others believe one elder often held the role of storyteller, keeper of words. You imagine both at different times, but tonight one voice dominates, steady and soothing, guiding all toward dreams. Your body grows heavy, and your mind slips into the imagery. The stag, the wolf, the snow, they are no longer outside you but inside, shaping dreams. Story becomes dream without seam. You wonder if the elder planned it that way, planting seeds in minds so that sleep continued their work. Instruction, myth, memory, all carried forward through dreams born in firelight. The last words trail off. The elder sighs, their own breath slowing as they finally join the slumbering group. The cave is quiet again, but not silent. The story lingers, glowing faintly in the minds of listeners, blending into the rhythm of breath and the flicker of coals. Sleep now belongs to everyone. You close your eyes fully, the stag's antlers stretching across the ceiling of your dream. The cave has given you warmth, food, breath, and now words. Together they cradle you, guiding you deeper. The elder's voice has faded, but its echo remains in the cave's stillness. Now, as your body sinks deeper, your mind wanders into the fragile terrain of dreams. Images arrive unbidden, flickering herds on the walls turning to life, snowfields stretching endlessly, predators with glowing eyes circling just beyond reach. You are asleep, yet not fully surrendered, hovering in the liminal state between wakefulness and dream, where cave life often drifted. Anthropologists studying traditional societies note that dreams were not private matters but shared resources. It is widely believed that prehistoric people treated dreams as messages, visions to be retold around the fire at dawn. A dream of a bison could be omen, instruction, or reassurance. To sleep was not just to rest, it was to consult the world beyond. You feel that weight now, each image in your mind heavy with meaning, as though the night itself is trying to teach you. The bison charges through your dream, its hooves pounding snow that glitters under a pale moon. It does not frighten you. Instead, it leads you forward, inviting you to follow. You sense that if you share this vision tomorrow, others will nod. Understanding that bison must be tracked soon, dream becomes strategy, a whisper of survival disguised as fantasy. A curious little detail from certain caves. Artifacts such as bone flutes or shells have been discovered near bedding layers. Some researchers propose they were used in rituals, perhaps to induce particular dream states. Sound and rhythm before sleep might have guided the mind into visions. Tonight you hear only the steady chorus of breath, but even that rhythm shapes your dreams, carrying you deeper into a landscape of animals and fire. Scholars still discuss whether dreams were seen as personal or communal property. Some argue they belong to the dreamer, unique and private. Others suggest they were collective, meant to be told aloud, analyzed, shared. In many indigenous traditions that survive today, dreams guide not only the individual but the group. You imagine tomorrow morning, hunters leaning in as you recount the bison, deciding together what it means. Your dream shifts. The owl's cry you heard earlier seeps into the imagery. Now you fly, wings silent, moving through forests of dark pine. You feel the cold air slicing past feathers that aren't yours, yet somehow are. Such transformations are common in dreams, and for your ancestors, they may not have been dismissed as illusion. To dream of becoming owl or wolf might have been interpreted as contact with those animals' spirits. Sleep, then, was a nightly initiation into other forms of being. An odd but fascinating tidbit. In some later traditions, shamans claimed their powers came from dreams, where animals taught them songs, cures, or hunting skills. While we cannot know for sure if Paleolithic dreamers held such roles, the possibility lingers. Perhaps one sleeper's dream guided the whole group, elevating them as intermediary between worlds. In that case, sleep was not passive, it was active, sacred, a nightly voyage on behalf of everyone. The fire pops, startling you awake for a moment, then you drift again. The dream resumes, now carrying traces of resin's fragrance. You see smoke coiling into shapes, turning into human forms that gesture silently. Are they ancestors? Spirits? Your mind cannot decide, but your heart swells with both fear and comfort. Dreams blur boundaries, allowing the dead to return, the future to arrive early, the impossible to unfold. The scholarly community remains divided on whether such dreams were induced intentionally, with herbs, chants, or smoke, or arose naturally from exhaustion and environment, perhaps both. Tonight, your dream feels natural, yet heightened by resin, smoke, and story. It is not ordinary rest, it is something deeper, a current pulling you where waking thought cannot go. You roll slightly on your bedding, murmuring aloud without realizing it. Others may do the same. The cave hums softly with dream talk fragments of words, sighs, half laughs. Even in sleep, communication continues. Perhaps this two-shaped myth, when someone recited fragments of a dream while still unconscious, and others remembered them in the morning. The boundary between dreaming and storytelling was thin, porous. One peculiar observation from research into sleep cycles: REM sleep often arrives in bursts, accompanied by vivid imagery. In dark environments, without artificial interruptions, such cycles can stretch longer, leading to elaborate dream worlds. Your ancestors likely spent more time dreaming than modern people do. Imagine the richness of their inner lives, carried each morning into the fire circle. Dreamtime was not escape, it was another form of living. Your dream grows stranger now. The painted deer on the wall steps down, antlers catching firelight, eyes glowing. It turns to you and speaks not in words you know, but in rhythms of breath and sound. You do not understand fully, yet you feel instructed, changed. This is what your ancestors might have called wisdom, even prophecy. Dreams do not need clarity to feel true. You stir, half awake, then drift again, carrying the deer with you. The cave is both cradle and theatre, its walls both stone and canvas, its night both silence and symphony. You are aware of the others sleeping, their dreams intermingling with yours in unseen ways, threads of vision weaving into a communal tapestry. Perhaps tomorrow stories will overlap, proving that dreams were never solitary. You sigh, turning deeper into hides, surrendering to the images. The cave guards you, fire warms you, kin breathe with you, and dreams carry you into realms where animals speak and ancestors walk. Sleep here is not simply unconsciousness, it is an ancient conversation, one you are honored to join. The dream lingers, yet slowly you stir, drifting in that quiet interval where sleep is not whole but neither is waking. The cave around you is hushed except for a faint hiss from the coals. Most bodies lie still, but here and there someone shifts, half roused, scratching an itch, turning over, mumbling. It is the middle of the night, a time when slumber loosens and reshapes itself. Historians of sleep point to an intriguing pattern known as segmented sleep. Without artificial light, many societies naturally broke the night into two phases, with a wakeful interval between. In this gap, people tended the fire, whispered to one another, or sat quietly in thought. Some scholars believe our prehistoric ancestors lived the same way. Tonight you feel it the urge not to fight wakefulness, but to accept it as part of the night's rhythm. You roll slightly, the hides rustling beneath you. A neighbor stirs too, eyes half open, then meets your gaze with a sleepy smile before turning back. No words are exchanged, yet the moment affirms companionship. Even in this pause, you are not alone. The darkness does not isolate. It invites small connections. One curious finding from later ethnographic records is that people often used these intervals for intimacy, not always physical, but emotional. Couples whispered, parents soothed children, friends shared stray thoughts. Imagine the cave in this hour. A murmur here, a laugh there, low voices carried by smoke, dreams just told, worries just soothed, all before the second stretch of sleep descended. The scholarly community debates whether such midnight waking was universal or varied by climate and culture. Some argue it was common in cold winters, when fire needed tending. Others insist it arose everywhere, built into human biology. You cannot decide which view feels truer, but the evidence of your own body tells you this. Waking now feels natural, not disruptive. You sit up a little, gazing at the embers. Their glow pulses like quiet stars, painting faint light across walls. A figure near the fire shifts, adding a branch, coaxing sparks into flame. The orange flare grows, shadows leap, then calm again. Such simple maintenance feels profound. To keep flame alive in this interval is to protect everyone's second sleep. An odd but telling tidbit. Experiments in total darkness show that people often wake after 4 hours, spend an hour in calm wakefulness, then return to bed. They describe the interval as peaceful, reflective, sometimes creative. Perhaps your ancestors too used this time to think, to dream awake, to plan hunts or tell secrets. Night was not a single block, but a woven pattern. Sleep, waking, sleep. You lean back against the cave wall, letting its chill seep into your back, while warmth still lingers on your front. This contrast sharpens your senses. You hear the faint crackle of wood, the muffled sigh of someone turning, the trickle of water in a distant corner. The silence between is not empty. It is rich, layered, alive. Nearby, a child whimpers in half-dream, and a mother draws them closer, murmuring softly. The sound is tender, almost musical. It reminds you how such intervals must have shaped bonds. Not every moment of parenting happened in daylight. Nights held their own rituals, comfort, reassurance, whispered promises that monsters would not cross the fire. Those promises were as vital as any spear. The fire settles, its smoke curling lazily. You lie down again, but your mind is not ready to plunge back into dreams yet. Thoughts wander. Perhaps prehistoric people, too, let their imaginations roam in this hour. Some researchers suggest that such intervals gave birth to reflection, even spirituality. With no distractions, only darkness and coals, the mind could wander farther than daylight allowed. Religion, myth, and philosophy may have been seeded in these drowsy pauses. A peculiar observation from some caves. Small carvings and etched bones are sometimes found near hearths, as if people whittled or scratched designs while others slept. Could these have been midnight projects, born in that quiet interval between rests? You imagine an elder carving spirals into bone while the rest of the group dreamed again, their hands moving in the silence, their thoughts drifting like smoke. You turn over, body settling deeper, finally ready for the second stretch of rest. Around you, the murmurs fade, one by one, until only breathing remains. The interval closes. Night gathers its folds again. Your eyelids sink, and you slide once more into the current of slumber, trusting that the rhythm will carry you until dawn. The cave sighs with you, stone and flesh synchronized. Segmented though it may be, sleep here is whole, woven seamlessly by fire, whispers, and silence. The second stretch of sleep draws you down more heavily than the first. Dreams swell again, stranger this time, more vivid, as though the mind, warmed and quieted by the brief waking, plunges deeper into its own river. But before the dreams can fully claim you, something else claims your ears, the rhythm of snores. They rise like waves across the chamber. One begins, low and guttural, from the far side of the hearth. Another joins, higher pitched, almost whistling. Soon the cave is filled with overlapping tones, a chorus of nasal song. It is imperfect and uneven, yet oddly comforting. The noise is proof that everyone sleeps, that vigilance can rest for a while. Archaeological evidence leaves no record of soundscapes, yet modern studies of group sleeping give clues. It is generally accepted that prehistoric caves would have been noisy at night. Snores, coughs, shifting hides, muttered dream words. Silence would have been rare. To us, accustomed to private rooms, such noise might feel disruptive. But for your ancestors, it was part of the lullaby of life. Tonight you realize it too. The snores blend into rhythm, a background music for dreams. One curious finding in anthropology. In some small-scale societies, snoring is not seen as nuisance but as reassurance. It signals health, proof of steady breathing, proof of life. Imagine parents listening for the snores of their children, sighing with relief when they hear them, or partners resting easier because the rasp beside them means the body next to theirs endures. Tonight, the guttural rumble of an elder sounds almost like a drumbeat, steady and grounding. Scholars still debate whether prehistoric people sought to reduce these sounds or accepted them fully. Some propose that positioning or herbal smoke may have been used to ease breathing. Others insist there was little choice. Noise was simply endured, even embraced. You suspect the latter. In this cave, with so many bodies pressed close, complaints would not last long. Survival demanded tolerance. You shift slightly, hides rustling, and notice how the snores create patterns. One long rumble, then two short wheezes. Another sleeper pauses, breath-catching, before releasing a sigh like a soft flute. Together, they create accidental music. The fire pops occasionally, joining the ensemble. Water drips rhythmically in the distance. Percussion for the night's orchestra. The cave is alive with sound, yet not chaotic, cohesive, strangely beautiful. A peculiar tidbit. Researchers have suggested that exposure to repetitive noise during sleep can influence dream imagery. Perhaps prehistoric people dreamed in rhythm with the snores around them, their subconscious weaving sound into story. Imagine dreaming of drums, rivers, or animal calls, when in fact it was only the breathing of kin. Tonight you feel that possibility, the rumble outside your ear morphing into a dream of thunder. The scholarly community remains divided on whether such noisy nights fragmented rest or fostered resilience. Some argue constant interruption made deep sleep rare. Others counter that the brain adapts, tuning out familiar sounds while waking instantly at unfamiliar ones. That ability remains in us today. A parent sleeps through traffic but wakes at a child's cry. You sense that adaptation sharpening here. The snores fade into background, but if danger stirred outside, your body would snap alert. You smile faintly in the dark. Even the oddest noises can become comfort when shared. A whistling snore becomes a reminder of companionship. A cough reassures you that elders endure. A muttered word proves dreams are active. Altogether, they weave a cocoon of sound, holding you steady in the river of night. One odd but striking observation from experimental archaeology. Volunteers living in cave-like camps often reported that group noises lulled them faster than silence. The sound reminded them of belonging, of being guarded by others. Tonight you share that sensation. The snores are not interruptions, they are anchors. You turn onto your side, hiding your face in fur, and let the orchestra continue. A deep rumble here, a nasal whistle there, a crackle of fire in between. Even your own breath joins, part of the composition whether you intend it or not. The cave hums like a living body, every noise a heartbeat. Dreams return, shaped by the sound. You wander through a forest where trees groan like sleepers and rivers gurgle like snores. The world itself breathes with you. Far from annoyance, the soundscape becomes a companion in dream, proof that even in unconsciousness you are never alone. The fire sighs, the snow holds, the chorus continues. You yield fully now, letting snores and coughs rock you into deeper slumber. The cave is no silent sanctuary. It is noisy, alive, communal, and in that noise lies the deepest comfort of all. The snores fade into the background of your dreams, and when you stir again, it is not sound but touch that commands your attention. A stray foot presses against your calf. A hand drapes across your shoulder. A child rolls closer in sleep. The cave is a nest of tangled limbs, and in the midst of it you feel the closeness more keenly than ever. Archaeological reconstructions suggest that communal sleeping involved unavoidable contact. There were no beds set apart, no private boundaries. Hides overlapped, bodies pressed together, warmth shared instinctively. It is widely accepted that this skin-to-skin closeness was not simply tolerated, but necessary. In freezing winters, heat loss through exposed skin could mean death. Contact was the currency of survival. You shift slightly, feeling how each body molds into the next. Shoulders rest against shoulders, knees tuck behind knees, breath brushes against the nape of your neck. It is intimate yet not romantic, simply the natural state of group living. Even without words, the message is clear. We endure together. A curious little finding at certain Paleolithic sites is the wear on hides and furs, often more pronounced at the edges where people likely tugged and shifted them throughout the night. This suggests that coverings were not individual but communal, passed back and forth, pulled tighter by one, loosened by another. Imagine the nightly choreography, dozens of micro-adjustments, each ripple affecting the group. To rest in such a setting meant surrendering a part of yourself to others' movements. Scholars debate whether such intimacy bred comfort or tension. Some argue it created profound bonds, reinforcing trust night after night. Others suggest constant touch and disturbance may have fueled irritability. Perhaps both are true. Tonight you sense the balance, an elbow jabs slightly too hard, yet the warmth it provides outweighs the annoyance. You exhale and accept, understanding that closeness is never perfect but always vital. The firelight glows faintly, painting faces in amber. You watch a child nestled into a parent's chest, their breaths synchronized. Another pair of sleepers lie back to back, spines aligned like puzzle pieces. An elder rests with an arm stretched outward, two grandchildren tucked against it like roots around a trunk. The arrangements are unplanned yet meaningful, bodies forming constellations of comfort across the cave floor. An unusual note from modern studies of communal sleeping. When people share body heat, their core temperature remains more stable throughout the night, leading to fewer wake-ups. You feel this truth in your bones. The warmth against your skin is steady, reliable. Even when the fire dims, the living furnace of kin sustains you. You wonder how dreams respond to such closeness. Do minds, like bodies, overlap? Do shared touches shape shared visions? Some anthropologists suggest that group dreaming may have reinforced social unity, giving entire families similar imagery to discuss at dawn. It is not provable, yet as you drift, you sense that your dreams are not yours alone, they belong to the circle of limbs and warmth holding you. One odd but telling tidbit. Studies of heart rhythms show that when people sleep in contact, their pulses sometimes align, beating in unison. Imagine that happening here. Dozens of hearts sinking in the night. The cave itself becomes a drum, each thump echoing faintly through stone. You press your hand against a companion's chest, almost feeling it. Their rhythm calms yours, and together you settle deeper. The scholarly community remains divided on whether prehistoric people valued privacy in any modern sense. Some argue that closeness was all they knew, and solitude was unthinkable. Others insist individuals sought small moments apart at cave mouths, in side chambers, under separate hides. Tonight, in the middle of the circle, you lean toward the first view. Separation feels dangerous, alien. Here, closeness is comfort, privacy an unnecessary luxury. You turn, nestling deeper into the tangle. A hand slips from your shoulder, replaced by another. The warmth shifts but never fades. Even in movement, the group remains whole. You realize this is the essence of prehistoric sleep, not individual rest, but collective surrender. Each body lends itself to the others, weaving a safety net through contact. Dreams return again, shaped by touch. You imagine yourself part of a larger animal, limbs joined, hearts aligned, moving as one. The vision is not frightening but reassuring. To be an individual here is to be incomplete. To be many is to be whole. The fire flickers, snow presses, breath mingles, limbs entwine. You sigh and let yourself dissolve into the nest. Survival lies not in solitude, but in skin against skin, warmth against warmth, dream against dream. And so, held by others, you rest again. The tangle of limbs holds steady, and you lie warm within it. But another element of the cave begins to press into your awareness. Water. A slow, steady drip echoes from a crack above, droplets falling into a shallow hollow in the floor. Plink, plink, plink. At first it is faint, almost ignorable. But as your ears tune in, the sound grows constant, shaping the rhythm of night. Archaeologists who study cave systems often note that water left behind mineral deposits, stalactites and stalagmites, that grew over centuries from such drips. It is widely accepted that prehistoric families heard these sounds every night, a background metronome of the earth itself. For you, lying here, it becomes both soothing and insistent, a reminder that time is passing even as you sleep. You notice how the droplets alter the atmosphere. The air is damp, clinging to skin, carrying the faint tang of minerals. You breathe it in cool, metallic, almost sharp. Some researchers suggest that such humidity may have irritated lungs, especially in smoky caves. Others argue it kept airways moist, easing breathing in dry winters. You feel both truths at once, a faint heaviness in your chest, yet also relief against the harshness of smoke. One curious little discovery at certain sites: shallow stone basins near bedding areas, filled not only with water but with traces of herbs. Scholars speculate these may have been used for rinsing, soothing, or even rituals before sleep. Imagine dipping your hands into cool mineral water, washing away smoke before curling under hides. Tonight, you picture an elder leaning over the hollow, letting the drip collect, then cupping it to sip before lying down again. The scholarly community is still uncertain whether dripping water was embraced as lullaby or cursed as nuisance. Some argue it provided natural white noise, masking sudden sounds and easing sleep. Others suggest it became irritating, keeping people restless. As you listen, though, the sound folds seamlessly into the cave's orchestra, joining snores, crackles, and sighs. It feels less like intrusion, more like heartbeat, steady and eternal. The drip also fuels dreams. In your drowsy state, the plink transforms into hooves, footsteps, drum beats. Each drop becomes an image, feeding the mind with rhythm. Anthropologists studying dreams in traditional cultures note how environmental sounds often merge into visions. Tonight, your subconscious cannot resist the lure the water leads you into forests, into hunts, into rivers that flow through sleep itself. An odd tidbit from cave studies: some chambers amplify water's drip, turning it into a loud, resonant tone. Explorers report feeling unsettled or mesmerized by the effect, depending on mood. Imagine your ancestors choosing sleeping spots partly for acoustics, favoring corners where water whispered rather than boomed. Comfort in caves was not only about warmth but also about soundscape. Tonight, you are grateful for the softer version, gentle as a lullaby. You reach a hand out toward the drip, though it is too far. Still, the gesture comforts you, as though connecting with the element. Water means survival, drinking, cleaning, cooking. To hear it all night was reassurance that the earth provided. Perhaps that is why some researchers believe dripping water held symbolic weight, interpreted as voices of spirits or ancestors. Falling drops became words of stone, speaking without interruption. The firelight catches the water briefly, making each drop sparkle before it falls. For a moment, you imagine the cave ceiling as sky, the droplets as stars falling one by one. The vision is calming, even holy. You wonder if children staring at the same sight saw magic there, if parents explained it as gifts from above. Sleep, then, would not come into emptiness, but into a world where even water spoke. The scholarly debate extends to whether prehistoric groups attempted to control such drips, diverting them with stones, collecting them deliberately, or leaving them as they were. Some basins suggest human arrangement, others seem purely natural. Either way, the sound endured, night after night, generation after generation. To lie in these caves was to lie under dripping time itself. You curl deeper into your bedding, letting the rhythm merge with your breath. Inhale, drip, exhale, drip. The synchronization feels natural, as though your body wants to align with the cave. Perhaps this was how people endured such environments, not by resisting but by joining, adapting until stone, water, and flesh move together. Dreams creep closer again, and the drip follows you into them. You find yourself beside a vast river, its current slow but endless, each ripple echoing like the cave's hollow. You step into it, unafraid, and let it carry you, knowing the water's rhythm will always guide you home. Back in the cave, the fire sighs, the breath chorus continues, and the drip keeps time. You surrender, letting the cave's elements cradle you together. Flame, smoke, warmth, contact, water, all are lullabies, ancient and eternal. The drip of water keeps its rhythm, but another detail of the cave begins to claim your senses now, the very skin of the walls themselves. In the glow of the embers, you notice their surfaces rough in some places, smooth in others, veined with minerals that glisten faintly. The walls are not lifeless. They carry marks of time, scratches of claws, stains of soot, and patterns etched by dripping water. As you stare, they seem less like barriers and more like silent companions. Archaeologists often note that cave walls were canvases of memory. Not only paintings but also scratches, carvings, and soot streaks preserved the presence of both humans and animals across generations. It is widely understood that families must have slept under these marks nightly, their eyes adjusting to the shapes until they became as familiar as kin. Tonight you share in that experience. The walls are not blank, but alive with stories, some intentional, some accidental. You run your fingers across the stone near your bedding. It is cool, almost damp, and gritty with mineral dust. The texture grounds you, reminding you that this place was shaped long before your arrival. Some scholars propose that people may have chosen sleeping spots according to the feel of walls, favoring smooth hollows for comfort or symbolic niches for protection. You can imagine a parent guiding a child to lean against a polished curve, soothing them with the touch of stone. A curious little discovery in some caves: claw marks preserved from bears or big cats, long before humans entered. To lie beneath them each night must have been humbling, a reminder that this home was once another creature's. Perhaps families turned those scars into stories, warnings, or charms. You gaze at the faint scratches on the wall and wonder if they still hold echoes of roars long vanished. Scholars remain divided on whether humans decorated their sleeping spaces deliberately or treated art and bedding as separate domains. Some argue paintings were confined to ritual chambers deeper inside. Others point to evidence of pigment near hearths, suggesting art surrounded daily life. You, staring at faint ochre streaks above your head, lean toward the latter. How could people resist turning even their sleeping chamber into a gallery? The firelight flickers, casting shadows that animate every crack. A long fissure becomes a snake slithering upward. A round hollow becomes an eye staring back. These illusions are no accident. The walls themselves invited interpretation. Imagine a child pointing out shapes night after night, their imagination sharpened by the interplay of pigment, crack, and flame. The cave was not passive. It collaborated in storytelling, shaping both dreams and fears. One odd but striking tidbit: in some caves, stalagmites were intentionally broken or arranged, as though reshaped by human hands. Perhaps they were obstacles to comfort, or perhaps they were turned into symbols, guardians at the edges of sleeping spaces. You can almost feel the urge yourself. If a jagged stone juts too close, you'd move it or break it, reshaping the chamber into something more human. You stretch out your arm again, palm pressed flat against the rock. The coolness seeps into your skin, balancing the warmth of the fire. It is strangely soothing, as if the cave itself lends you its patience. Stone has no urgency. It waits, unhurried, carrying memories far older than your kind. To rest against it is to borrow that patience, to let your body slow into its rhythm. Scholarly debate continues about whether caves were chosen more for practical features, dry floors, narrow entrances, or symbolic ones, such as resonant acoustics and unique markings. Perhaps the answer is both. Tonight, as you lie beneath claw marks and ochre smears, warmed by stone's silence, you sense no division between practical and sacred. Comfort and meaning were inseparable here. A peculiar observation from spelunkers. Some caves hum faintly when wind passes through, the walls vibrating like a distant drum. If your ancestors heard such tones at night, perhaps they treated them as voices of the cave itself. Sleep would then come, not in silence, but in a choir of whispers, water dripping, stone humming, fire sighing. Even now, you half believe you hear a hum beneath the drip, a resonance too low to name. The walls cradle you as much as the hides. They lean close, forming an embrace of stone. You do not feel trapped, but sheltered. Their permanence reassures you that even if storms rage or predators stalk, these walls will not falter. They have stood for millennia and will stand long after you. Such endurance seeps into your bones, convincing you that rest is safe. Dreams creep back, shaped by the wall's markings. You see animals etched in cracks, ancestors traced in soot, rivers carved in veins of quartz. The cave is not only a bed, it is a dream machine, feeding your mind images it could never invent alone. Sleep becomes collaborative, woven by stone and fire, body and imagination. Your eyelids sink lower. The last thing you notice before surrendering fully is the way a fissure curves across the wall, resembling a horizon. It feels like promise. Beyond this night, beyond this winter, there is always another dawn. The cave has seen them all. It will see yours too. The walls have quieted you, their permanence sinking into your bones. But now another companion asserts itself, the animals that once prowled outside, and sometimes within. Even in sleep, your mind flickers with the knowledge that you are not the cave's only guest. Bears, wolves, and lions once claimed these chambers. Their shadows linger, shaping every dream and every breath. Archaeological evidence confirms that many caves were first home to great predators. Bear skulls, lion bones, claw marks, gouged deep into stone, all testify that humans were latecomers. It is broadly recognized that families bedding here in winter slept not in neutral space, but in contested territory. Tonight you feel that tension, the warmth of kin pressed close, yet always the nagging thought something else has slept here before me. You imagine lying beneath those old claw marks, wondering if the beast might return. Perhaps stories soothed that fear, tales of hunters who defeated lions, or spirits who drove bears away. Perhaps every firelit was both practical and symbolic, a declaration to predators that the cave now belonged to humans. You see it clearly, the flames not only warming hides but also drawing a line of ownership across the chamber. A curious little discovery at Chauvet Cave in France. Alongside human footprints preserved in clay, paw prints of cave bears meander across the same ground. It means, at least once, humans and beasts shared the floor, separated only by time. Imagine sleeping there, knowing your bedding overlies the prints of a predator larger than you. Every snore, every sigh, carries a reminder of what might lurk in the shadows. The academic community remains divided on whether humans actively displaced predators or merely occupied caves seasonally when beasts were absent. Some argue that fire and noise forced bears into other dens. Others suggest humans waited until hibernation or migration left chambers empty. Tonight, curled against the fire, you lean toward the latter. No family would risk bedding where fresh claw marks still dripped blood. Still, fear must have flavored every night. You picture children huddled close, asking if the lion would return, parents answering softly, pointing to the fire as proof of safety. Yet both knew the risk lingered. The cave was never entirely theirs. Sleep came not from certainty, but from fragile trust. One odd but telling tidbit: in some Upper Paleolithic sites, bear skulls were arranged deliberately, perhaps as trophies or protective charms. Some scholars believe they signified mastery over beasts. Others think they were tributes, offerings to keep predators appeased. Either way, the presence of skulls near sleeping areas meant that even in rest, animals remained central to thought and ritual. The fire crackles, and you imagine its glow casting back a lion's reflection. You feel the instinctive tensing of muscles, the sharpened awareness even in drowsiness. This is what your ancestors carried: the ability to half sleep, ears attuned to every rustle. Modern studies of group sleeping show similar phenomena. Someone always wakes at small sounds, the group never entirely defenseless. You realize that predators shaped not only caves, but the very pattern of human slumber. A peculiar observation from bear dens reused by humans. Scratches high on walls show that cubs once clambered there. To sleep beneath those marks might have evoked strange empathy, knowing the enemy's children had once played where your own now curled. Perhaps this blurred fear and kinship. After all, both species sought the same thing: warmth, safety, survival. The cave became a mirror, predator and human chasing identical needs. Dreams respond to that tension. You drift into visions of sharing the chamber with beasts lying beside a bear that snores louder than any human, watching wolves curl in a circle near the entrance, lions flicking tails by the fire. The imagery is both terrifying and oddly tender. You sense what your ancestors may have felt, that boundaries between species blur in darkness. Night makes kin of all sleepers. Scholars still argue whether such visions fed early myths of animal-human transformation. Perhaps the belief that shamans could take the form of bear or lion arose not from hunts, but from nights of uneasy sleep in shared caves. To rest where predators once lay is to invite their spirits into dreams. You feel that possibility now, as though a lion's eyes blink open in the back of your mind, guiding you deeper into slumber. The fire wanes, shadows stretch, and the predator presence thickens, yet you do not panic. Instead, you accept it as your ancestors must have. Sleep comes not from banishing fear, but from embracing it, folding it into the fabric of night. The cave is shared: stone, water, human, beast. Safety lies not in domination, but in coexistence. One final reflection drifts across your thoughts. Perhaps the best sleep was not when predators were absent, but when their memory lingered. For in that tension, vigilance sharpened, bonds tightened, stories deepened. To dream of beasts was to remember your place in the chain of life. You close your eyes, heart steady, accepting both the comfort of kin and the shadow of lions. Together, they cradle you. The memory of beasts drifts away, leaving you with another awareness: the slow return of light. You stir, lids heavy, to see the faintest glow pressing at the snow-sealed entrance. It is not yet dawn, but something changes in the darkness, a subtle lifting, a thinning of shadow. The night has stretched long, and now its fabric begins to fray. Archaeologists who study daily cycles note that without artificial lamps, prehistoric people measured time by firelight and the natural rhythm of dawn and dusk. It is generally understood that sleepers often stirred well before sunrise, roused not by alarms but by the shift in air, the change in tone. You feel it now, that delicate cue, as if the cave itself exhales and hints that morning will arrive. You roll slightly, bones stiff from the night. Around you, others begin their own slow wakening. An elder coughs gently, a child mutters in dream speech, someone stretches with a crack of joints. The group does not wake all at once, but in ripples, one body nudging another into awareness. It is communal, even in rising. A curious little finding from cave excavations. Layers of ash suggest that embers were often rekindled in the grey hours before dawn, fires coaxed back to life for warmth and light. Tonight, or rather this morning, you watch the same one adult rises, hair tangled, and nudges the coals with a stick, feeding them with dry twigs until sparks flare. Soon orange glow swells again, painting faces with the first warmth of day. The academic community remains divided on whether mornings in caves were rushed with activity or slow and deliberate. Some argue that hunters rose early, eager to seize daylight. Others believe winter mornings were languid, conserving energy until light truly arrived. You sense truth in the latter. No one leaps to their feet. Bodies stretch, yawns echo. Time itself seems patient. The snow at the entrance glows faintly golden now, firelight and dawn colliding to turn the barrier into a luminous wall. Children gaze at it with wonder, whispering as though spirits are behind it. You smile, realizing that for them, each morning is a miracle. Night has not trapped them. The world continues. Light returns. One odd but telling tidbit. In some ethnographic records, waking rituals included sharing dreams immediately upon rising. You can picture the same here, adults murmuring about visions of bison or deer, deciding together if the dreams carried meaning. Perhaps hunts were planned or postponed based on these morning exchanges. In this cave, sleep and wake are not separate realms, but threads woven tightly together. You rise enough to sit, pulling hides around your shoulders. The air is crisp, your breath visible again. Smoke lingers, curling lazily upward. The dripping water continues, steady as ever, proof that some rhythms never stop. The snores fade into grumbles, the chorus shifting into morning noises. Scholars speculate on whether waking in such communal settings bred patience or irritation. Some argue it strengthened bonds, each morning a reminder of shared endurance. Others suspect tempers frayed, elbows jabbed, snores cursed under breath. You witness both in the cave, laughter as a child tumbles out of bedding, a groan as an elder rubs aching knees. Humanity is never tidy, even in survival. An unusual observation from later hunter-gatherer groups. Dawn often meant small rituals of grooming, combing hair with fingers, rinsing faces with cold water, stretching limbs. Perhaps your ancestors did the same. You imagine them leaning toward the drip, splashing faces, rubbing soot from skin. Even in hardship, there is dignity in preparing for the day. The cave brightens gradually, shadows retreating. The paintings above bison, horses, deer reappear in clearer light, their forms steady after a night of flicker. You gaze at them and realize they too are part of waking. They are reminders not only of dreams but of tasks waiting outside. The animals return, not in fantasy but in reality, their herds still roaming beyond the snow. One peculiar tidbit: in some preserved hearths, morning fires contain bits of bone and fat, suggesting small meals shared at first light. You imagine now the group reaching for scraps left from the night before, chewing slowly, fueling bodies for another day. The flavors of smoke and ash linger, but hunger makes them welcome. The scholarly community is not in agreement about whether early mornings in winter were filled with hope or dread. Some suggest they symbolized renewal, proof of survival through another night. Others argue they carried heaviness, a reminder of the day's struggles ahead. You sense both currents in the cave. Relief mingles with resignation. Sleep has ended. Endurance begins again. The children rise first, always restless. They scurry toward the glowing wall of snow, pressing small hands against it, laughing at the cold. Their joy is infectious, proof that even in harshest winters, life holds play. Adults follow more slowly, eyes still heavy, bodies sore but ready. The rhythm of night yields to the rhythm of day. You inhale deeply, feeling the cave's air shift as bodies stir, as fire revives, as dawn asserts itself. Sleep has carried you, dreams have guided you, and now waking asks for your presence. You stretch, bones creaking yet heart steady. The cave has given you another night of protection. Morning thanks must follow. Your gaze lingers on the faint light, edging past the snow barrier. Soon someone will clear it, and the outside will return cold, vast, merciless, but real. For now, though, you savor this in-between moment, where night has not fully gone, and day has not fully arrived. It is a pause, a breath, a reminder of continuity. You close your eyes briefly once more, leaning into hides, listening to laughter, coughs, crackling fire, and dripping water. Even in waking, the lullaby continues. The cave remains alive, carrying you from one cycle to the next. The faint dawn has grown stronger now, pressing insistently at the blocked entrance. The snow that once insulated and guarded you now glows like a lantern wall, pale gold seeping through cracks. One or two adults move toward it, scraping with antler tools and sticks, breaking a path back to the waking world. The muffled hush that held you all night begins to crackle and shift. Archaeologists studying seasonal camps note that such clearings of snow or brush often marked the true start of day. It is widely accepted that families would slowly reopen the cave, letting in air, light, and the sense of the outside. You see it here, the pile of white crumbling inward, cold gusts rushing across the chamber. The shift is jarring after so many hours of warmth, yet invigorating. You pull hides tighter, shivering, but your eyes brighten. The world beyond is returning. Outside lies hunger, hunting, hardship, but also possibility. The cave has done its duty, cradling you through another night. Now its role shifts from womb to shelter, background for daily work. A curious little discovery at some Ice Age sites. Traces of footprints around entrances suggest that people often lingered there at first light, adjusting slowly to the day's glare. Imagine them stepping cautiously into snow, blinking at the vast horizon, stretching cramped muscles. You can almost feel that impulse in your own legs, eager yet hesitant, caught between safety and necessity. Scholars continue to debate whether prehistoric mornings inspired awe or dread. Some insist dawn was celebrated, proof of survival. Others argue it brought anxiety, the weight of tasks pressing in. You sense both currents as you watch the group stir, children laughing at snowflakes drifting inside, adults groaning at the thought of labor. Life was never simple. The fire flares once more as someone adds resin-rich wood, ensuring warmth for those who remain. The chamber glows brighter now, its painted animals vivid again. You glance at them, and they seem different in daylight, less like spirits, more like reminders. Hunt, endure, adapt. The night's dreamlike guardians transform into the day's practical guides. One odd but striking tidbit. In some caves, marks of repeated scraping on walls near entrances suggest deliberate rituals of greeting or farewell to the outside world. Perhaps each morning, gestures honored the cave before departure, thanking it for safety. You imagine touching the wall yourself, pressing palm against cool stone in silent gratitude. The group begins to move in earnest. Hides folded, ashes stirred, children bundled. You sense the rhythm of transition, the long stretch of sleep giving way to action. Yet beneath it all lingers a quiet wonder that such sleep was possible at all, in a world of storms, beasts, and hunger. The cave, the fire, the bodies of kin, the whispers of story and dream, all conspired to make rest not only possible, but profound. The scholarly community often reminds us that survival was not only about spears or hunts, but about resilience of spirit. To sleep soundly, even one night, in such conditions was an act of triumph. Your body has felt that truth across these hours. Ache, closeness, noise, warmth, fear, and comfort blending into one tapestry of endurance. You stand now, stretching tall, feeling the stiffness of stone-born rest in your joints. Yet beneath it lies strength, renewed by hours of surrender. Your ancestors knew this secret well, that sleep, even imperfect, restores courage to face another day. Children rush to the entrance, squealing at the brightness outside. Adults follow, cautious, checking for tracks of wolves or bears. The world is waiting, merciless but beautiful, harsh but sustaining. The night has prepared you for it, one dream at a time. One peculiar reflection. Modern research shows that restorative sleep strengthens memory, decision-making, and creativity. Imagine how those gifts shaped the first humans. Each night of dreaming may have sparked new ideas, tools, strategies, symbols that carried them further. Perhaps the very progress of humanity was born not in hunts but in sleep-filled caves. You glance back once more before leaving. The fire smoulders, the walls gleam, water drips, soot lines glow faintly. It is not just shelter, it is archive, temple, womb, a place where survival intertwined with meaning, where rest became a form of prayer. To sleep here was to belong, not only to family but to earth itself. And now, as dawn brightens, the cycle completes. You step toward the light, hides around your shoulders, body renewed. Another night has passed, another day begins. And so, as the snow-muffled cave gives way to dawn, you feel the arc of the night settle within you. The fire has dimmed, the paintings have watched, the breath of kin has wrapped you, and now light stretches across stone, soft and forgiving. It is time to leave the dream of caves behind, but gently, without hurry. Close your eyes once more. Picture the walls, cool and enduring, leaning close to hold you. Hear the water drip, patient and steady, like time itself. Feel the warmth of bodies beside you, each heartbeat echoing with yours. Let the memory of bison and deer linger in your mind, not as fear but as guardians, companions who kept watch as you slept. The storm outside has calmed, and the air is lighter, easier. You walk out slowly, still wrapped in furs, your breath visible in the morning cold. The horizon glows pale, promising another day. And yet, you are not rushed. You carry with you the stillness of the night, the calm rhythm of breath, the wisdom of rest. Let your body grow heavy now, as if stone itself cradles you. Let your thoughts soften like embers fading to ash. You are safe. You are sheltered. You are part of something older than time. The night is not your enemy. It is your greatest companion, teaching you to surrender, teaching you to trust. Breathe deeply, slowly. Inhale the warmth of the fire that still glows within. Exhale the last tension of the day. You are ready for sleep, ready for dreams, ready to join the long lineage of sleepers who once lay in caves, who once trusted the night as you do now. Rest easy, sleep well. The cave will hold you.